Chapter 246. After the rain, the air in the forest became fresh. However, the people running in the forest were not in the mood to pay attention to the air. They only felt that the forest full of sunlight was full of murderous intent, which was driving them crazy. Puff! A sharp light flashed. The spear penetrated the body of a Xueqi warrior who was running. The man beside him did not look at his fallen companion. Instead of slowing down, he sped up. In the distance, there came some strange cries of beasts or ferocious beasts, which made people's hair stand on end. There seemed to be a cold current in the forest, which made the birds and beasts that used to live here stay away. Even the ferocious beasts began to look for other places. Yangguang was fine, and the water on the ground reflected the dazzling Yangguang. However, the running man only felt that the temperature around him was dropping rapidly. His eyes, which had been filled with anger because of being chased, were now filled with endless panic. Feeling the approaching killing intent, the running man's pupils suddenly shrank. He felt that a chill was rushing up his spine, and the back of his neck was cold. What should he do? The running Xueqi warrior anxiously tried to think of a way to survive. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Yes, there was a giant bear. He remembered that there was a giant bear around. He could lead the pursuers behind him to the giant bear. Perhaps the giant bear would shift its target to them, and he could take advantage of the chaos to escape. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was feasible. The face of the Xueqi warrior became gloomy because of extreme fear, and his face was so distorted that it could not be seen clearly. Here it was, almost there. Look, the giant bear was sleeping. He could see a tuft of dark brown hair behind the bush. It was the small one. The big one must be nearby. Great! The sleeping giant bear moved its semicircular ears and sniffed. It smelled the food and opened its eyes. Its sleepiness quickly faded away, and it looked around to find the specific location of the food. The running Xueqi warrior almost laughed out loud when he saw the moving figure behind the bush. However, before he could laugh, the invisible pressure became heavy as the chasers approached quickly. It made it difficult for him to breathe and his steps were unstable. Senior Totem Warrior. He himself was a mid-level totem warrior, but the person who brought him such pressure was no worse than the leader of Xueqi, right? He didn't have the time to think about who this domineering and ferocious person was, nor did he have the time to be surprised. The other party's movements were too fast. By the time he wanted to see clearly who it was, his vision had already become blurry due to the huge pressure. The roar of the air riots sounded in his ears. It was like a mountain torrent, covering the sky and earth with a destructive aura. It enveloped him and then smashed down. Bang! The ground instantly caved in, forming a mud pit. The edge of the pit was splattered with blood from the inside out. It had just rained, and because of the violent smash just now, the muddy water spread out and flowed back into the pit. Mixed with the fresh blood, it gathered in the pit and drowned the person who had been smashed to the point of being unrecognizable. Xueqi rode on the wolf and looked at Ao, who was standing beside the pit with his hands covered in blood and was still furious. Ao's body was covered with muddy water and blood. Coupled with the strong and violent evil spirit, he looked like a god of death who had just been released. Looking away from there, Xueqi looked at the bushes not far away. The bear paw that had just stretched out was drawn back. Crack! The sound of the bear paw breaking the branches was quite clear in this stagnant area. Xueqi, Ao, who was covered with evil spirit, and Caesar, who was grinding his teeth, all looked over there. The giant bear cub hiding behind the bushes had a flash of fear in its eyes. Retreat, retreat, turn around and run away. In fact, Xueqi and Ao had already noticed the guy behind the bushes, but at this time, they were not in the mood to hunt ferocious beasts. Their goal was the people of the Xueqi tribe in the forest, so naturally, they would not pay more attention to other ferocious beasts. As long as those ferocious beasts did not hinder them from finding their enemies, they would not pay attention to them. The giant bear cub ran towards the mother bear. Seeing its savior, it was about to roar, just like when it was in trouble and asked for help. However, as soon as it opened its mouth, a bear paw slapped it. The giant bear cub was stunned and forgot to roar, staring at its mother blankly. The mother bear stood up and carefully looked around. Then it landed on all fours, growled and bared its teeth, and left with the cub. This place was too dangerous. They could not stay here any longer. It was better to go to other places. In the group of people of the Xueqi tribe, the one who ran the fastest and had the best luck finally reached the edge of the ferocious beast mountain forest. Ha ha ha, I still managed to escape, I still managed to escape," he shouted in his heart. Rushing out of the forest, he looked forward and saw Bien and his men coming this way. Did they know something happened in the forest, so they came to save us? That was better. The one who ran out of the forest was ecstatic. He decided that he would never go into the forest again. If someone died, let others die. He would not go in anyway. He would find an excuse to pretend to be dead. However, while he was rejoicing that he had escaped this calamity, he did not notice the fear in the eyes of the people Fuan brought with him when they looked behind him. Like the wind blowing, a gray figure jumped out of the forest, landed on the ground, and jumped up again like a tight spring. In an instant, it caught up with the one who ran away. It seemed that it had already predicted where the prey would run to the next moment. When Caesar jumped up and landed, the wolf paw just pressed on the man who ran away. Crack! The wolf paw almost penetrated the man's body and stepped on the ground. Blood spread out. The wind from the forest carried the smell of mud after the rain, and also the smell of blood that made people's hair stand on end. The people with Bien were all speechless, as if they were stabbed in the throat with a knife. They just stared at the man and the wolf who rushed out. Who was this man? Bien looked at the totem pattern on Xueqi's body and searched for the totem patterns of each tribe in his memory. He even compared the totem patterns of several well-known tribes in the central region, but none of them matched. Frowning, Bien was a little flustered. This was different from what he had expected. Even a moron would know that something was wrong. As for the wolf that just jumped out of the forest, a ferocious beast? Or a tamed ferocious beast? No wonder this guy could be so arrogant. He dared to chase people here and trampled them to death in front of him. Bien's eyes were gloomy. This warrior also looked very young. A senior totem warrior? No, he should not be. At best, he was just a good intermediate totem warrior. Bien could still feel this. However, he did not know why he felt a strong threat from this intermediate totem warrior. Anyway, he was just an intermediate totem warrior. No matter which tribe he was from, even if he had a ferocious beast with him, could they not even deal with a ferocious beast and an intermediate totem warrior? If this spread out, they would be laughed at. Bien was about to take action, but suddenly he felt a breath that made him extremely afraid. He stopped his action abruptly. The breath of a strong man. A figure rushed out of the forest. He rushed out at a fast speed, but he could stop and stand still in an instant. His feet stepped on the ground, making a bang sound. The wet soil on the ground splashed around like waves. The ground trembled. Even the people of the Wanshi tribe, who were hundreds of meters away, could feel it clearly. Bien's eyelids suddenly twitched. A senior totem warrior. And a senior totem warrior who was not inferior to him. Such a person should appear here. And when did they arrive? Bien was thinking about how to deal with the senior, intermediate and ferocious beast in front of him. However, he saw several figures rushing out of the forest one after another. Bang! 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 Almost in the same way, they rushed out and stood still in an instant. The ground shook many times. The people of the Wanshi tribe were so shocked that they forgot to count. Bien's eyelids kept twitching. Senior! Senior! And senior! These people who came out were all senior totem warriors. Bien felt that the muscles on his back became stiff. Even the movement of twisting his neck became difficult. This situation was simply too shocking for him. While the people of the Wanshi tribe were stunned, Xueqi looked at these Yanjiao warriors. Since they could come here, they must have dealt with the people in the forest. Xueqi and the others did not speak. After all, Ao was still here. With a gloomier and fiercer face than Bien, Ao held the spear in his hand. Clang! A deep mark appeared on the ground in front of Ao. It was obviously made by the spear. The mark was less than 2 meters long under his feet. However, in the eyes of everyone who saw this scene, this line seemed to extend out. Anyone who enters the forest, kill. Every single word was like a heavy blow to his heart. The fearsome beast forest was the boundary. The boundary between life and death. Following Ao's words, more than 30 people came out of the forest and stood in a row. There were not many of them. They were more than 10 meters away from each other. Compared to the people of the Wanshi tribe, it was very sparse. However, when the invisible aura spread out, it seemed to build a high and heavy wall, a barrier that could not be climbed. Even though they were so far away, the people of the Wanshi tribe still wanted to step back. It was too uncomfortable to face this pressure. Looking at the mark on the ground and looking up at the row of people, the people of the Wanshi tribe swallowed their saliva. These people with strange totem patterns still had a lot of blood on them. It was as if they had just been washed by the evaporation of blood. They had never seen such fierce eyes. It was as if they were facing the ferocious beasts in the fearsome beast forest. Facing the merciless ruthlessness, they could not help but be deeply afraid, even if they had sabers in their hands. These people were different from the people of other tribes they had seen. They did not fight. Their aura alone was enough to make them want to retreat. Fuji's face became uglier. Pulling the restless Wanshi beast beside him, Feng Xiu's eyes twitched continuously. The sudden appearance of these people who dared to challenge him made him angry, and his expression became extremely ferocious. However, behind the anger, there was a trace of fear that was spreading. It was a kind of intuition. Although the two sides had not really fought and killed each other, Fuji really did not have confidence in facing these people. In addition, how many more people like them were there in the forest? How many more had not shown their killing weapons? Even in the depths of his heart, Fuji was glad that these people only drew the boundary in the forest. Although he was not confident, as the chief of the tribe, he could not retreat even if he could not move forward. He could not show weakness verbally. Under the influence of all kinds of emotions, Fuji's face was a little stiff. "You'd better not go out of the forest." After saying this, Fuji pulled the Wanshi beast fiercely and roared, "Let's go." Ao suppressed the desire to fight with these people and said to himself in the bottom of his heart, bear it, now is not the time. Wanshi tribe, just wait. When the fire in the old land is reignited, when the wanderers come back and the tribe is stable, we will take revenge. Let's go back, Ao said to the others. Xiao glanced at the direction of the Wanshi tribe, patted Caesar and turned to follow Ao back to the fearsome beast forest. From the beginning to the end, except for Caesar, none of the ferocious beasts in the forest appeared in front of the Wanshi people. And the Wanshi people who had seen them were speechless. Chapter 247. When Xiao returned to the old land with Ao and the others, the place that was full of gravel and debris had been cleaned up. The decent weeds had been pulled out and the dangerous plants in the surrounding woods had been cut down. As for the beasts, they had already run away. Many of them were in the pot. The place where the fire pit used to be had been piled up again. It was almost twice as big as the one on the other side of the river, and also the size of the original one. As long as the underground fire vein was still there, the fire pit could still be restored to its original state. The fire vein was left behind by the ancestors when they left in a hurry. It was a part of the fire seed. Perhaps the ancestors of Yanjiao left in a hurry because of the sudden natural disaster, but they did not expect that they would leave for nearly 1,000 years. During these years, the fire seed that had left had never returned. If they really wanted to move, it would take time to completely take the fire seed away. Just like on the other side of the river, the shaman took a long time to take the fire seed away from the fire pit, and then spent a lot of effort to completely remove the fire seed from the fire pit. Fortunately, now they were all back, and the fire vein was not completely destroyed. Although the fire pit had been rebuilt, the fire seed had not been ignited in it for the time being. The shaman had to hold a sacrificial ceremony, and then ignite the fire seed in the fire pit to connect it to the fire vein. The surrounding people had already started to cut down trees to build houses, and the strong totem warriors were carrying stones. The shaman stayed in the carriage and did not come out. When Xiao came back, Guizhe was jumping out of the carriage with the processed herbs. "What's wrong?" Xiao looked at the wooden carriage and asked Guizhe. "The shaman is in a bad mood." Guizhe sighed. It was not easy to come back here, and seeing the mess, it would be strange if the shaman was in a good mood. Moreover, according to the shaman's style, everything he saw and felt should be recorded in the Wu roll, and passed down in the future. Xiao knocked on the doorframe of the carriage. "Come in." The voice from inside did not sound happy or angry. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. When it came to this old man, it meant that he was unhappy. Sure enough, after Xiao went in, he saw the shaman writing on a roll of animal skin. "How is it?" the shaman asked without raising his head. Xiao briefly explained the situation. "Ao is right. We still need some time to catch our breath." The shaman then asked, "Can you copy that stone pillar?" "Yes. However, it would take some time. The stone was not easy to find, and it also needed to be excavated. Why don't I go look for him now?" Seeing the broken stone pillar, Xian didn't feel good. 2 years ago, when he came here, the stone pillar was like a landmark. He even sat on it. The shaman shook his head. No, let's put that aside for now. When the fire is ignited, the first thing the tribe needs to do is to go out and meet the returning wanderers. When the fire was reignited in the old land, the wanderers who had left would come back. This was what he had told Xian. What about the time of the sacrifice? Xian asked. Tomorrow night. The time of the sacrifice was set. Now everyone had to prepare for the sacrifice as they had done in previous years. They took water to wash the stains on their bodies and clothes, and prepared the sacrificial animal clothes. But this time, there weren't as many steps as there had been at the beginning of the year. They just needed to ignite the fire in the fire pit of the old land. The next night, after washing and changing into the sacrificial animal clothes, the Yanjiao tribesmen gathered around the fire pit, including the wanderers who had joined the team later. As for the wanderers outside the Yanjiao tribe, they didn't join in, but just stayed aside and watched. In the sacrifice, the more important the person was, the closer to the fire pit. Even in a different place, this rule still existed. Xian was the only intermediate totem warrior in the group closest to the fire pit. The cart with the fire pit was already next to them. The atmosphere around was quiet and solemn. The wanderers who were a little further away stared at the fire pit and didn't dare to say a word. This was not the original mountain, and the place where they were now was not the top of the mountain. Looking around, in the distance there were mountains around. In comparison, this place was at a lower place, and with the surrounding woods, it was not conspicuous. Amidst the silence, the shaman carefully got into the car. After a while, he got out of the car with a small flame in his hand. However, this flame was twice as big as the one he had left the other side of the river, and it was still dancing in his hand. As the shaman approached the fire pit step by step, a flame appeared in the fire pit and broke out of the ground. Then, from the center of the flame, 6 fire lines were divided into 6 directions. Each fire line passed through the crowd standing around and spread further away. The closer the shaman was to the fire pit, the brighter the flame in the fire pit, and the thicker the 6 fire lines were. When the shaman walked into the fire pit and put the fire pit in the center of the fire line, a beam of flame rushed up to the sky, like a tower of thousands of feet. It was very eye-catching in the dark night. The shaman, who had left the fire pit, knelt on the ground with the others, and welcomed the reigniting of the fire pit with the highest ceremony of the tribe. In the fire pit, the fire pillar quickly became thicker and spread to the whole fire pit. The rolling flame covered the rolling mountains in the distance with a layer of fire, like a sudden wonder of heaven and earth. The flame was all over the sky, but not a single leaf was burned. Not only that, the flame in the fire pit spread along the 6 fire lines. Each fire line was like a fuse, which led the fire of the fire pit to the distance in an instant, and the flame from the ground fire line was like a giant magic weapon that suddenly appeared in the world. It split the black night sky into 6 parts, showing an indescribable majestic scene of heaven and earth. The wanderers on the edge suddenly felt their bodies shake, and their spirits were shocked. The surrounding momentum made them tremble, and they felt their hair stand up. They had never seen such a situation. The fire pit, this was the power of the fire pit. It made people have an impulse to worship it immediately. Only this kind of fire pit could drive away the ferocious beasts. Only this kind of fire pit could protect the tribe and reproduce in this forest. Xian watched the strange changes of the fire pit, and felt that the totem power in his body was surging with a rising flame, little by little. Once, the totem flame in his mind was like a rootless floating object, drifting erratically. But now, it seemed to have found a support and a point to rely on. It was stable, and the flame was higher. Since the fire pit and the fire line were connected, Xian felt that his body was in a state of extreme excitement, and the totem in his mind was also in a constant state of excitement. The totem power in his body, from little drops, became surging like a river, running endlessly in his body, as if it was going to come out from every pore. The totem patterns on his body became deeper and clearer. His heart was beating strongly. His blood seemed to be boiling. All the emotions were ignited in an instant. Although Ao was still kneeling on the ground, his upper body stood up. He looked up at the fire tower in the fire pit, raised his arms high, and roared loudly. Because of the excessive emotion, his voice was obviously hoarse. It sounded like he was venting, but also like he was calling. The surging totem power, along with the boiling blood, bloomed and rushed out through the skin of his body. On his body, under the light of the fire, The sacrificial animal suit was shocked by the airflow around the totem warrior, and suddenly there were cracks on it. The ground where he was kneeling was impacted by the erupting airflow. Gravel and dust flew everywhere, and the flying sand was quickly engulfed and swallowed by the raging flames. After AO, the team leader, the leader of the hunting group, and the hunting warriors also roared one after another. Their voices, accompanied by the light of the fire, echoed in the forest. A sense of pride that they had never felt before welled up in their hearts. In the heart of every Yanjiao tribesman, there was a sense of honor and pride as a Yanjiao. This sense of pride had never disappeared, and had lasted from the tribe thousands of years ago to the present. They observed with their eyes and felt with their hearts. There was an invisible force around them, which made every blood vessel, every muscle, every bone, and even all the spirit quickly merged with this force. Xueqi looked in the direction of the fire pit, listening to the roars around him. With a smile in his eyes, he roared with them, sharing the excitement with them. The shaman looked at the flames that filled his eyes. He looked at the familiar two-horned totem in the middle of the fire pit. Tears flashed in his eyes. We are still strong, and we have never forgotten. Our glory is still there, but we came back a little late. At the same time, in the Wanshi tribe, the Wanshi shaman and the chief Bian looked at the small flame in the fire pit with gloomy faces. Not only the Wanshi tribe, but also other tribes could feel it, especially the tribes in the central region. Those big tribes felt it most clearly. The fire in their fire pits had been swayed because of this. Only a powerful fire could cause such a phenomenon. Who was it? In the whole central region, except for the few known people, who else could do this? Many people were puzzled. In a place farther away from the ferocious Beast Mountain forest, the shaman of the Mang tribe stood on a high mountain in the forest, glancing at the large green forest around, and then looked in one direction, with a complicated smile in his eyes. Those barbarians really came back, on the vast plateau in the Feng tribe. He looked at the totem patterns on his body that were clearer than before. His shriveled and wrinkled face trembled, and then he knelt down deeply in one direction. Drops of tears fell into the grass and seeped into the soil. How many years had it been? Finally it came. He pulled his wife and grandson to kneel down. After a long time, when the totem patterns on his body gradually disappeared, he stood up. The old lady wanted to help he, who had been kneeling for a long time, but was pushed away by him. Now he felt full of strength. Although he was far less than those totem warriors, he was much better than before. He could even carry a bucket without trembling. Seeing that he was too excited and his body was still trembling, the old lady asked worriedly, "How do you feel?" He straightened his back, holding his grandson who had grown much taller, and said loudly, "Hungry." The old lady, "Pack up, we have to go back." He said. He had met several Yanjiao tribesmen from other tribes during the trading time of the grassland tribes. They had agreed that if they could really wait until the day when the fire in the old land was reignited, they would team up and go back together. Chapter 248. People in the Yanjiao tribe didn't know how many people lost sleep that night, nor did they know what the other tribes thought. Their thoughts were simple. Whatever the shaman and the chief told them to do, they just did. They didn't need to think about other things, they just needed to do their best. When the fire was reignited, everyone felt that their totem power had changed a lot, and it was a good change. That night, to the shaman and the chief's delight, another 7 people were promoted to senior totem warriors. When they absorbed the fire crystals, they didn't directly break through, and were stuck until now. Unexpectedly, they succeeded that night. Many people in the tribe said that when the fire returned to the old land, it was complete, and the ancestors' wish was fulfilled. However, Xueqi felt that although the fire seemed to be stronger than before, it was still incomplete. Only half of the fire seed that had been split into 2 had returned to the old land. The shaman didn't tell them, because even the shaman himself didn't know where the other half was, and he couldn't feel it. In the morning, Xueqi got up early. He wanted to help old Ku build a house, but he was summoned before he started. Near the fire pit, there was a half-built stone house. It was for the shaman. Other people's houses could be delayed, but the shaman's house couldn't be neglected. The warriors who built the house didn't sleep all night, but they were not tired. They were still excited. When Xueqi arrived, there were more than 30 people gathered around. "Uncle Mai, why did the shaman call us here?" Xueqi asked in a low voice. "It seems to be about helping the wanderers." Mai replied. "So fast?" Xueqi thought that the shaman would send people out when the house was almost finished. Because they had been in contact with many wanderers like this, everyone knew their fighting strength. They were stronger than those who had not awakened their totem power, but they were still inferior to the real totem warriors. The shaman hoped that everyone would help them, as many as they could. The shaman and the chief had been discussing this matter after the ceremony last night, and the list had been finalized. Xueqi looked at the people who had been called over. He was familiar with all the people gathered around the microphone. They were all from his previous hunting group. It seemed that they had to go out as a hunting group. When almost everyone had arrived, Ao called everyone over. There was a piece of wood erected there and a few pieces of gravel piled up beside it. Ao went over and stepped on the gravel. He unfolded the animal skin scroll in his hand and hung it on the top of the wood so that the people who were called over could see the drawings on it. What was drawn on the animal skin scroll was a simple map. This was the map that Xueqi had completed after collecting new information on the way to the old haunt. Ao drew 10 copies of these maps. There were about 500 people who were called over. Each team of 50 people would act in a team. There were exactly 10 teams, and each team would have one map. The leaders were all former leaders of the 10 hunting groups. The route had already been marked on the animal skin scroll, and each team was responsible for one route. While assigning tasks, Ao gave a simple explanation of the route for each team. The tribes around the route had been marked. Perhaps not all of them were marked, but the important ones were all marked. Xian, you go with Mai and the others. Take them to the grassland and meet the wanderers there. You have been there once, so you are more familiar with it than them. Ao said. Okay. Xueqi thought of the old man who sang the hunting song on the mountain. He wondered how the wanderers on the grassland were doing. Had they set off? Would he meet them? After assigning tasks, Ao asked everyone to go back and prepare. They would set off tomorrow. The 10 leaders were left behind. Ao had something to say to them. When they went out, the 10 leaders would still be in charge of the team. They had to know many things that were inconvenient for others to know. They had just arrived here and were not used to many things. This place was not like before, where they only needed to hunt ferocious beasts. Now they had to guard against people. Most of the time, people were more dangerous than ferocious beasts. At the same time, they had to adapt to the rules here. Xian, you stay too, Ao said. In terms of understanding of this place, Xueqi was not as familiar as Ao. In fact, Xueqi did not know much. But after hearing a lot, he summed up some things, such as the gossip Yang Sui had told him, the relationship between each tribe, who were more famous and so on. After assigning tasks, Ao asked the 10 leaders to leave, but Xueqi still stayed. Anything else? Ao asked, puzzled. Well, leader, I was thinking when we go to the grassland, I want to see if we can exchange for some livestock such as horses, cows, and sheep. Although the Lu tribe also has some, I think the breeds on the grassland are more suitable for us. Xueqi said. Ao's eyes flashed, and he nodded. Yes, the tribe does need some livestock. Here there would be more and more people. People in the tribe could not focus all their energy on hunting like before. The situation here was more complicated. Besides, there would be more and more people in the tribe who could not awaken their totem power. Whether it was the wanderers from the Yanjiao tribe who came back or the other wanderers who depended on them, the number would increase. They also needed to consider the placement of these people. They could not just let them live in the tribe without working or contributing. Just as they had discussed before, the rearing and planting of the plants would be distributed to these people. They could not go out to hunt, but they could not even farm and raise livestock. The situation here was better than on the other side of the river. Some people who knew how to make pottery had already started making, and they were very successful. Others also needed something to do. It would take too much time to completely tame wild animals. It was better to exchange some with people directly. You are right. Okay, I agree. Go. Ao said. Xueqi did not move. Ao waited for a while, but still did not see Xueqi leave. He looked up and asked, anything else? Xueqi twisted his fingers. Boss, water moonstones. Of course, he was waiting here to apply for public funds. Ao suddenly understood. He just said that the other team leaders needed to get used to it as soon as possible, but he did not think of it himself. Here, to get something they had to take out other things to trade with others. It was not like in the old tribe, where they could just use a few simple stones or a few wild animals. Many people did not accept food at all. Wait, I will get it. Ao walked to the shaman. All the water moonstones were in the shaman's wooden cart. Xiao Xian left Ao's place with his share of water moonstones, and 9 more for the other teams. He also told them what Ao Wang said. They did not need to bring livestock like Xiao Xian did. It would be better if they could buy some seeds. They did not know which plants in the forest could be planted. The species were not stable. What if they died from eating the plants? People who had not awakened their totemic power were not as strong as totemic warriors. Many tribes controlled their seeds very well, and sold them at a high price. They did not even reveal how to plant them. When the time came, they would have to figure it out by themselves. After giving out the 9 water moonstones, Xiao Xian went to find Mai. He saw Yang Guang and his sister talking to Mai. Yang Guang and his sister were not among the people who went out this time. Not only them, but also the people who raised the ferocious beasts, except for Xiao Xian, could not go out. They and the ferocious beasts all had to stay in the camp. More than half of the people in the advance group had to stay, including the 2 team leaders. Mai was annoyed by the siblings and said, "I can't do anything. If you want to talk, go to the chief." The people who went out were all personally selected by Ao. Even if they had objections, they had to go to the chief. But it was useless. Since the chief made this choice, he must have his own considerations. Otherwise, why didn't anyone dare to go to the chief when there were so many people who wanted to go out with them? Xiao Xian saw Yang Guang and his sister's bitter faces, and the 2 ferocious beasts who were so bored that they were kicking stones. He smiled and said, "You stay in the tribe. You have to guard against invaders." After what happened in the drumming tribe, Yang Guang and his sister had a clear idea of invaders. Thinking of the Wanshe tribe, which was not far from here, Yang Guang and his sister narrowed their eyes. They thought that it was better to stay. Maybe they could catch some invaders. The next day, Xiao Xian said goodbye to Old Ku and left the tribe with Mai and the others. Caesar followed, and Cha-Cha flew in the sky. Caesar had already shown his face, so he did not intend to hide. As for Cha-Cha, except for Xiao Xian, it did not listen to anyone. The others in the tribe could not do anything to it. As for the tribe's aerial warning mission, Gigu's white falcon was there, so there was no need to worry. After being frightened, the people of the Wanshe tribe did not dare to go into the mountains in a short time, not to mention that their fire seed had been reignited. The places covered by the strong fire seed were unfavorable to the people of other tribes. The closer they were to the fire seed, the more their totemic power would be affected, and their fighting power would be weakened. This was another reason why small tribes were easier to destroy, and big tribes were stronger. Because the fire seed of big tribes was stronger. Although it was a short time, it was obvious that the shaman and the chief were in a hurry. Fortunately, because of the reignited fire seed, everyone was not tired at all. Instead, they were full of energy, especially those who were on the list. They were more excited at the thought of meeting more people and things from other tribes. They were also envied by those who stayed in the tribe. "Xian, how long will it take for us to reach the grassland? Can we come back before winter?" Lang Jie, who was carrying the equipment, could not help but ask. "It's a bit far, but we can definitely come back before winter. Even if we can't, the winter here is not as cold as the winter on the other side of the river, and there are no ferocious beasts. We can handle it." Xiao Xian said. "That's good." Lang Jie looked expectant again. A long time ago, his goal was to become an intermediate totemic warrior in his lifetime. Now, he was already an intermediate totemic warrior. He also felt that he might be able to become a senior totemic warrior in the future. "My father said that we are the generation blessed by our ancestors," Lang Jie said with emotion. The others also agreed. But no one noticed that Caesar, who was walking in front, snorted, with a trace of disapproval in his eyes. Chapter 249. When Xiao Xian and the others went to the grassland, Old He went to the Feng tribe and waited on a low mountain on the border of the tribe every day. According to his agreement with the others, the people on the grassland should leave from here. However, 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 5 days passed, and Old He didn't see any trace of those people. On the 10th day, Old He didn't let his wife and grandson wait here with him. He would inform them when he saw them. The old lady was old and not a wanderer of the Yanjiao tribe, so she was not as healthy as Old He. The 10-year-old Anai was asked to look after the sheep, so that they could get some food in return. After all, No one knew how many days they would have to wait to leave. He knew that the grassland was very large and it would take time to come here, so he waited at ease at first. However, on the 15th day, he was really anxious. He was afraid that the team would forget him. After all, there were only 3 of them here, 2 of whom were old and 1 young. Did they think it was troublesome to take them with them? He couldn't help but think about it. The wanderers on the grassland were divided into several groups, so it was impossible for all of them to go the same way. The person he contacted did decide to go this way. However, after 15 days, they didn't even see a shadow. Was it on purpose, or did they encounter trouble? If it was the former, he would take his family and leave. He knew that there were only 3 of them, and the journey was long and dangerous, but he was willing to take the risk. However, he believed in the latter. He knew that people would not easily abandon their tribesmen, but if they encountered trouble. He heard that there was a war on the other side of the mountain. If the wanderers encountered it, they might be involved. Thinking of this, he was more worried. He would rather others forget about his family than be involved in the war. Once involved in the war, they would be killed. It was rare for his indifferent temperament to become impatient. He still insisted on waiting on the mountain early in the morning with food until sunset. When he went up the mountain, his 10-year-old grandson Anai was helping Gua-er's family to look after the sheep. Including him, there were 5 people guarding the flock. In the past, there were only 3 of them. Sometimes, one of them could keep an eye on the flock. But recently, the tribe had been losing sheep. Sometimes, there were cows or horses. The livestock was uncertain, and most of the lost animals were the young ones. The patrol team patrolled every day and night, but there were still cases of livestock being lost. Sometimes it was this house, sometimes it was that house. It had been more than 10 days. Some people said that they saw a pack of wolves moving around. Perhaps they were some cunning and swift wolves. There was a war between tribes on the other side of the mountain range. Therefore, in order to avoid the war, the wild beasts in the vicinity also moved around. Some of them crossed the mountain range and came here. Therefore, the patrol team had sent more people to pay attention to the traces of the wolf pack. Gua-er was listless recently. His favorite calf was missing. He had planned to raise it carefully to fight with his friends next door. However, he didn't expect that the calf was missing when he went to the cow pen the day before yesterday. He didn't want to stay with his friends for the next 2 days. It wasn't easy for him to find a newborn calf. He had even prepared the best pasture, but it was gone in the end. Anai, when do you think the wolf came in and took the calf away? Gua-er asked with boredom. I don't know. After a pause, Anai said, I don't think it was a wolf. In the past 2 years, because Gua-er promised Xueqi to take care of Lauhi's family, his attitude towards Anai was better. Even if he didn't let Anai join their small group, he didn't feel sad for him. Sometimes when Anai was bullied by others, Gua-er would help him out. Therefore, Anai and Gua-er talked more. I don't think so either. It may be a fox or an eagle. There are many animals that steal livestock on the grassland. They all like to steal calves. Gua-er said with a fierce look. He took out a bone knife and chopped it in the air. If I know who stole it, I will chop it. After saying a few harsh words, Gua-er found that no one supported him. He turned his head and found that Anai didn't listen to him at all. He was looking around. Hey, did you hear what I said just now? Gua-er said with dissatisfaction. Anai didn't answer him, but asked, Did you hear any sound just now? What sound? Gua-er thought Anai was looking for an excuse. It's... Anai thought for a while, but couldn't describe it. He didn't intend to pay attention to Gua-er's complaint. He stood up and looked at the sheep that were eating grass not far away. However, Anai didn't want to pay attention to it, but Gua-er couldn't stop talking and continued. Hey, I heard that you are leaving. When will you leave? Where will you go? Can you see Xueqi again? If you see him again, ask him to carve a wood carving of a wolf for me. I will exchange cattle and sheep for it. The wood carving was taken away by my father, and he didn't let me touch it. Gua-er said to himself. Gua-er. Anai suddenly said. What? One sheep is lost. Anai said hurriedly. Hearing this, Gua-er hurriedly stood up and stood on the wooden stool next to him. He looked at the sheep and counted them. His family didn't have many sheep now, and the livestock lost recently were all calves. So Gua-er directly counted the number of calves. No, you counted wrong. None of the calves are lost. Xueqi was relieved and said. When Xueqi was about to laugh at Anai for not knowing how to count, he heard Anai say, "It's not a calf, it's a big one. I counted 4 times. It's really lost. It was still here this morning." Impossible. Xueqi didn't believe it and counted. Although he liked to play, he also clearly remembered the number of livestock raised by his family. He knew how many were consumed every day and how many were born. After counting, one was indeed missing. There were 4 people watching in other places. Although they didn't watch the sheep but looked at other places, as long as the sheep didn't run away, it was fine. Xueqi ran over and asked the 4 people. None of them saw the sheep leave the flock. Everyone was here, but he didn't see any wolves or foxes. Was it an eagle? He looked up to the sky and didn't see any birds. Even if an eagle came down to catch the sheep, it would make some noise. But Xueqi didn't hear it. "Hey, Xueqi, what are you looking for?" A little girl of the same age as Xueqi's neighbor came over. "It's none of your business." Xueqi was anxious now and his tone was not good. Knowing Xueqi's temper, Doya didn't intend to ask him, but turned to ask Anai next to her. Anai had a good impression of Doya, so he told her what had happened just now. Knowing the whole story, Doya didn't want to ask Xueqi to have a horse race. Her family lost a sheep yesterday. It was not too small or big. "What are you going to do?" Doya asked. "Xueqi, go and talk to your father. If your mother is at home, you can talk to your mother," Anai advised. "No, I'll look for it first." Xueqi didn't want to find his father who was patrolling now, nor did he want to wake up his mother who was sleeping. His mother had a younger brother or sister in her belly and needed to rest. Moreover, he hoped to find some clues and then tell the adults. "I'll go too." Doya swung her horsewhip, rolled up her sleeves and followed him. Anai looked around and said something to the nearest shepherd. Then he chased after Doya and Anai. The shepherd didn't care about it. The children in the tribe ran around all day and nothing happened. There were patrols at the border, so they didn't worry. When Anai and Xueqi were looking for the missing sheep, Old He, who was standing on the low mountain, finally saw a team. The leader was the one who had contacted him. Old He, who was very happy, hurried over, only to find that the people in the team were very tired and had many injuries. There were 2 seriously injured people in the team and he didn't know how many days they could last. They encountered the war on the other side of the mountain. However, they were lucky to be alive here. Originally, there were 32 people in the team. Because of the scuffle between the tribes on the other side of the mountain, 3 people couldn't follow them here. As for the 2 seriously injured people in the team, if they couldn't survive, there would be 5 people. This wanderer team had been walking at the border of the tribes. Therefore, even if they were seen by the patrols, as long as they were not bloodthirsty people, they would be fine. Old He wanted to take them to his home, but now it was a sensitive period. The people of the Feng tribe wouldn't let suspicious people enter the tribe. Therefore, Old He ran back to get some herbs for the injured people. "I also brought some food. You can eat it first." Old He handed over the half leg of lamb in his hand. It was definitely not enough for these people. But at least there was food. It was good for everyone to have a bite after roasting. When they were talking about the situation in the team, a patrol team of the Feng tribe rode over quickly. Xueqi's father was in the front. "Old He, have you seen Xueqi?" The man was so anxious that his forehead was full of sweat. "No, what happened?" Old He had a bad feeling and his voice was trembling. "A sheep was lost at home. Xueqi didn't even tell us. He directly took Anai and Doya to look for it. But we haven't seen them yet." Old He's legs were soft. Anai was the only child left in his family. "If something happened, look, I'll look for it too," Old He said with trembling lips. The patrol team looked at the nearly 30 wanderers in front of them who were full of blood and asked, "Did you come from the mountains? Have you found any abnormal situation, such as wolves and other beasts?" There were indeed wolves and foxes running here, and, the man who spoke thought of something and said with a frightened face, "There was also a kind of big worm. I heard that it was originally sleeping around the mountains. It was awakened by the war over there. It came out and ate many people. One of our team was dragged into the ground by them. I don't know if they came over." "Worm? Stone worm?" the man asked. "Not stone worms. They have sharp teeth and are a little flat. They have many feet on their bodies. They don't leave any holes where they drill. They will block them with soil. We have been digging for a long time. The man who spoke cried. When they saw their companion being dragged into the ground, they all went to dig. However, their speed was not as fast as that worm's drilling speed, so they only dug out soil. Worms that drill into the ground? Without leaving any holes. The patrol team was shocked. They looked at each other and saw the suspicion in each other's eyes. The livestock lost in the tribe might not be wolves or other beasts on land or in the sky, but a threat from the ground. Chapter 250. According to the description of the wanderers, the patrol team immediately went back to inform the others and tried their best to find it. Xueqi and the others might have encountered that kind of insect. The wanderers who were not seriously injured also helped to find it at the border. They couldn't enter the tribe, but they could still move around the border and help the old he. Since the faint totem patterns appeared on their bodies gradually became stronger. Especially a few days ago, they felt particularly carefree that night, which even made them have the illusion that they were real totem warriors. Because their bodies became stronger, they could walk all the way here and so many people survived. In the scuffle over the mountains, some people wanted to kill them, but they were all killed by their joint efforts. Although they were inevitably injured, they also lost some people. When the Feng tribe was panicked because of the news brought by the wanderers, the 3 people who went to find the clues of the lost sheep also got into trouble as everyone expected. The 3 children were panting heavily as they ran for their lives. Hurry up! Hurry up! It's catching up with us! Xueqi roared. They now regretted that they didn't inform the others directly at that time. Not long after they left the place where they grazed the sheep, they were attracted by some wool on the ground. After walking for a while, they didn't meet the patrol team, but they found that something was approaching behind them. The uplifted soil on the ground was approaching them quickly. The 3 of them ran and ran. The further they ran, the further they went from the residential area. At first, they were running and shouting, hoping that someone could hear them. They also thought that it would be great if they could meet someone from the patrol team. However, until now, they hadn't seen anyone from the Feng tribe. When they came to themselves, they found that the surrounding area was empty. Although they were still in the territory of the Feng tribe, they were close to the border so few people came here. The pursuer behind them seemed to deliberately avoid the patrol team's active place, and had been chasing them here. The 3 had little strength to shout again, so they just ran. Thinking of what he had said before, if you find the animal thief, kill it. But now, Xueqi knew how wrong he was. Run that way, don't run out of the tribe. Xueqi led the 2 to turn around, but soon, they found that they were still too naive. Another brown-red insect drilled out of the ground and blocked their way. The worm was wider than the 3 of them put together. The part of the worm that came out of the ground was longer than the length of 3 horses. Its small and sharp head had 2 chelicerae that opened and closed. Its 2 front legs were like 2 long and soft sickles, swinging agilely. One could feel the aura of death coming from it. Ah! Doya screamed, her voice a little hoarse. She shouted, hoping that the patrols around them would come and save them. However, no one appeared in the direction of the tribe. On the other side of the border, there were small hills. That was the boundary. After crossing those hills, they would be out of the Feng tribe's territory. Growing up, they had never left the territory of the tribe. The adults had warned them since they were young that they were only safe in the tribe. If they left the tribe, they would be persecuted by other tribes. But now they had no choice. Xueqi gritted his teeth, turned around and shouted towards the direction far away from the tribe. Run! Doya and Anai followed him closely. When Xueqi was running, he thought of what his parents had taught him when he was a child. If you met a beast with a sheep and couldn't beat it, you should give up the sheep and throw it to the beast. If the beast had the sheep, it wouldn't chase you for the time being and you would have a chance to escape. At this moment, there were 2 insects chasing them. There were 3 of them. Doya was a member of the Feng tribe like him. Only Anai was a wanderer. In many people's minds, wanderers were the sheep that was abandoned after encountering danger. However, Xueqi remembered that 2 years ago, the man who carved the wood for him said that the promise couldn't be taken back. Xueqi had promised to help take care of Anai. If there was a second wanderer, Xueqi would not hesitate to kick him to the pursuers behind him. However, since he had promised, he couldn't give up this sheep. Their ancestors were watching over the grassland. People of the Feng tribe couldn't break their promise. He was about to awaken his totem power. Yesterday, He told his father that he would become the bravest warrior of the Feng tribe and a famous warrior on the grassland in the future. However, he might not be able to wait until that day. Gua clenched the bone knife in his hand and slowed down his running pace. He pulled out the knife and turned around to look at the two reddish-brown insects behind and on the side. "You run quickly. I'll hold them off." Before he finished the word, "hold them off," Gua-er's eyes reflected the insect's shadow that rushed over quickly. The two open chelicerae were like clamps that could clamp people directly. Gua-er could even smell the bloody smell from the insect's mouth and see the wool on the insect's chelicerae. This was the thief who stole his cattle and sheep. "Ah!" Gua-er screamed and waved the knife with his eyes closed. Puff! The sound of flesh being pierced sounded. Before that, Gua-er seemed to have heard the whistling sound like an arrow piercing through the air. Gua-er's hand holding the knife was still trembling. His legs were a little weak and his throat still uttered ah sounds. However, when he felt that he didn't cut anything, Gua-er stopped roaring and opened his eyes a little bit. The next moment, he was shocked to see that the reddish-brown insect that rushed over was pierced by a spear near its head. The insect was still moving, but two more spears flew over in a vertical arrangement and pierced through the insect that stood up because of the pain. The strong impact made the insect fall back. Some very fine scales on the insect's body splashed out along with the brown blood, splashing on the surrounding ground, and some splashing on Gua-er's body. A gust of wind seemed to blow by. Gua-er only caught a glimpse of a gray shadow. Then, the bigger insect that chased from the side was dragged away by force. Yes, dragged away. A wolf taller than the tallest warrior in the tribe dodged the two soft sickles, thrown by the insect, bit the insect's body and dragged it out of the soil completely with brute force. After dragging the insect for a distance, the wolf stepped on the insect's body with its claws and tore the whole insect directly. It was like the omnipotent alpha wolves in the stories. The brown liquid spurted out from the insect flowed all over the ground, giving out a smell like rotten leaves. One of the insects that chased them just now was pierced through and made a dying struggle. The other one was violently torn off and couldn't be more dead. There were footsteps and voices behind him. Gua-er looked away from the wolf with difficulty and looked behind him. Anai and Doya didn't run. After he stopped, they also stopped 2 steps away. Further away, a group of people ran over from the low hill. Gua-er only knew one, Xiao, who carved wood for him. Chapter 251. The 3 children's faces still showed the relief after the crisis, as well as the fear that had not completely disappeared. 2 years had passed, but Anai still remembered Xiao. Therefore, after seeing Xiao, Anai was relieved and couldn't help showing joy on his face. His grandfather had said that Xiao was from the same tribe as them. Lang Jie and the others went over to look at the worm that was still struggling. They had never seen this kind of strange worm. Perhaps, they only lived on the grassland. "Anai, why are you here?" Xiao came over and asked. If they hadn't arrived in time, the situation would have been terrible if they had been late. Anai briefly told them what had happened. It should be these worms that stole it. I heard that there was a tribal war on the other side of the mountain. Recently, there have been more and more beasts around here. These worms may have come from the mountain. Anai told them his guess. Well, it should be them. Where is your grandfather? Xiao asked again. Grandfather is waiting for Uncle Kuan and the others. He has been waiting for more than 10 days. Anai said. Xiao had a general idea in his mind. Just at this time, he heard the sound of hoofs. The people of the Feng tribe are here. Xiao said. Hearing Xiao's words, Doya and Gua-er also looked around. Doya was still vigilant just now. Even if these people had saved them, she was still vigilant against outsiders. Seeing that Anai and Gua-er were familiar with them, her vigilance faded a little, but she still carefully looked at these outsiders whom she had never seen before. These people looked difficult to deal with and would not lose to the warriors of the patrol team in the tribe. Seeing the patrol team appear from the mound, Gua-er and Doya immediately shouted with joy. The team of the Feng tribe was led by Yi Bei, the leader of the patrol team. Xiao had seen him before. Gua-er's father was also among them, and his face was full of sweat. Seeing that the 2 children were fine, the weight on the hearts of the patrol team was lifted. However, the appearance of these people made them vigilant again. Not to mention, there was an unusual wolf beside him. Those who had hunted wolves before could tell that this wolf was different from the ones they had killed before. Against such a wolf, unless it was the leader, it would be very difficult to win. It was on a completely different level from the wild wolves in the forest. After Gua Er's father arrived on a horse, he checked to make sure that Gua Er was not injured, and then he paid attention to these strangers. Yi Bei had an impression of Xiao Xian, but he couldn't recall his name. Xiao Xian stepped forward and said, "Xiao Xian of the Yanjiao tribe." "Oh right. You came here with the expedition team before." Yi Bei remembered. Hearing the name Xiao Xian, Gua Er's father also knew that this was the carver of the wolf wood carving. He looked at the wolf next to him and compared it with his own wood carving. It was really similar. That was how the wood carving was done back then, right? After briefly introducing Mai and the others, Xiao Xian told them the purpose of their visit. "We came to pick up people and see if we can trade some healthy livestock cubs." Yi Bei looked at the group behind Xiao Xian. All of them had a kind of fierce fighting spirit. Although they were not aggressive, they could not be ignored. If they met such a team at ordinary times, the people of the Feng tribe would immediately sound the alarm. But these people had just saved the children of their tribe, and one of them knew them. Yi Bei noticed that the patrol team kept glancing at the wolf after they came over. He was also shocked. He had never seen such a wolf on the grassland. Maybe some tribes in the grassland had wolves of such size, like the ferocious beasts in the Hui tribe. But after all, there were very few tribes like that on the grassland. They were all famous big tribes, not inferior to those in the central region. But in front of him, they were from the unknown Yanjiao tribe. No matter what he thought, since the other party was not malicious or aggressive, and their words showed that they wanted to make a deal, Yi Bei showed a warm attitude. Letting people take the 2 dead insects, Yi Bei took Xiao Xian and the others to the tribe. At that time, Xiao Xian was with the traveling team. He was not from the Pu tribe, so naturally, he did not get much attention. But this time, they came in a team representing the tribe, a mysterious tribe that could not be underestimated. Yi Bei could not be careless. He also let people go back to report to the shaman and the chief. Xiao Xian and the others did not go directly to the Feng tribe, but went to the place where Old He and the others were. The wanderers who went out to help find Anai had received the news and rushed back. Old He was also told that Anai was fine. When he was thinking about whether to go back to see his grandson, he saw a group of people coming. Xiao Xian. Old He saw Xiao Xian and his grandson Anai, who was beside Xiao Xian. Hearing the name Xiao Xian, the people who were sitting on the grass immediately stood up and stretched their necks to look over. They heard from Old He that the totem warrior who appeared in the tribe 2 years ago was called Xiao Xian. So, the people from the tribe came? Thinking of this, the wanderers were excited. Even those whose legs were injured asked their companions to help them up and looked at the group of people coming over. They had never seen them before, but they felt familiar. They were indeed from the tribe. Yes. Are they from the Yanjiao tribe? They are from our tribe. Someone corrected. They are really from the tribe. They must be totem warriors. The grassland tribes treated totem warriors differently from wanderers. They could see the cautious attitude of the patrolling members of the Feng tribe, so they must be totem warriors, not wanderers like them. Look, there are wolves. What a big wolf. Is it domesticated? Old He was so excited that he stepped forward to greet them. Grandpa! Anai rushed to the old man and told him what had happened before. Looking at his grandson who was safe and sound, Old He looked at Xiao Xian and the others and thanked them again and again. Long time no see, Old He. Xiao Xian said with a smile. Looking away from Old He, Xiao Xian looked at a young man who was coming over. The person's face was filled with excitement and nervousness. He had a square face, and because he often worked outside, his whole body was tanned. His palms were rough, and there were many wounds and scars on his body. Some were new, and some were old. Under the animal skin clothes with several holes, there were traces of grass ropes on his shoulders. Because of the hard life, he was not very strong compared to the other warriors of the Yanjiao tribe, but he had a strong spirit. Probably because he had not had a good rest for many days. He looked a little tired, but he looked at the warriors of the Yanjiao tribe with burning eyes. His name is Kuan Tuesday. He was going to take us back. Old He introduced him. Xiao Xian nodded and stepped back. He pointed to Mai next to him and introduced him to the wanderers. This is the leader of our team, Senior Totem Warrior Mai. Xiao Xian deliberately mentioned Senior Totem Warrior to make the wanderers feel more at ease, and also to let Mai know his existence here. If these people awakened their totem power in the future, Mai could take them as his subordinates. For the wanderers, totem warriors were rare, let alone senior totem warriors. Wasn't that the same level as the leader of the patrolling team of the Feng tribe? Mai asked people to distribute some food and herbs to the wanderers, and then he talked with Kuan Tu and asked for details. Mai, Xiao Xian, our chief wants to see you. Bei came and said. Xiao Xian looked at the wanderers. Bei saw it and smiled. They are coming too. From now on, Kuan Tu and the others were no longer wanderers. Since they were no longer wanderers, their attitude was naturally different. It was different to have the support of the tribe. The wanderers were so excited that they could not calm down for a long time. After finding a place to settle the injured and tired wanderers, Mai took people to the chief of the Feng tribe. The chief of the Feng tribe mainly wanted to meet the people of the Yanjiao tribe and see what kind of people they were. At the same time, he also wanted to thank them for the strange insects. Hearing that they were going to trade livestock, the chief of the Feng tribe asked people to take Xiao Xian and the others to pick livestock. Mai stayed there to talk with the people of the Feng tribe, and Xiao Xian took 10 people to pick livestock. The livestock were not always in the same place. Sometimes they would go to one place, and if they did not have enough, they would go to another place. When Gua Er saw Xiao Xian take people and wolves to his home, he was very excited. Dad, a living wolf, a living one. I know. Don't go there, or it will eat you. Gua Er's father went over to help Xiao Xian pick the livestock, but Gua Er didn't dare to approach, so he could only stand not far away and watch. He had already forgotten the panic of encountering the strange insects before, and now he had time to stare at Caesar. Not only Gua Er, but also many people around, no matter adults or children, especially those who were close to Gua Er. They had also seen Gua Er's wood carving. Gua Er had taken it out and compared it with them. They had thought that the wood carving was too exaggerated. Some of them had seen a wolf pack and the head of a wolf pack, but they had never seen such a wolf. Look at the claws and teeth of the wood carving, and the momentum, it was too exaggerated. However, now it seemed that the wood carving was not fully shown. Sure enough, it felt different to see a living one. Being stared at, they felt a chill on their backs. Xiao Xian asked people to help him pick some livestock, and he also picked some himself. There were cattle, sheep, and horses. They were all young animals that could walk and run. Because the chief valued the Yanjiao tribe, the people who helped him pick the livestock did not dare to fool around. They picked carefully. After picking, they traded with water moonstones or shells. Before Xiao Xian came, he had already exchanged water moonstones for shells and other things in a market. So no matter what the Feng tribe accepted, Xiao Xian could take them out. In the end, there were 20 cattle, sheep, and horses, male and female. After picking, he asked the wanderers to look after them. They had experience and could take good care of them. That night, the people of the Yanjiao tribe stayed in the Feng tribe. Because of the war on the other side of the mountain, more beasts came over the mountain. On this side of the mountain, in addition to the Feng tribe, there were several other tribes that had been attacked by strange insects and beasts. Naturally, there were more people patrolling at night. Caesar lay on the grass outside, listening to the cries in the distance. He felt that it was too noisy, so he stood up and shook his fur. Then he raised his head and howled to the sky. Ow! The howl passed through the grassland of the Feng tribe and spread to farther places. It could even be heard in the mountains. The cattle and sheep of the Feng tribe were shivering in the pen. Many horses in the pen were also anxious, but not too much. They did not feel the murderous intent against them. Some of them had faced the wolves before, so they were not timid. Some beasts wandering around the border of the Feng tribe did not hesitate to turn around and run away after hearing the howl, especially the wolves. Invisible underground, several insects that were heading towards the Feng tribe also paused, probably thinking about something. After a while, they also turned around and ran towards other tribes. After the howl, there was silence. Caesar did not hear any provocative howls. Satisfied, he lay down again and continued to sleep. The warriors of the Feng tribe patrolling on the grassland looked at the beasts in the distance and looked at each other. Chapter 252. It could be said that the night they stayed at the Flaming Horns tribe was the quietest night the people of the Feng tribe had ever spent. On this night, they didn't hear the cries of various nocturnal beasts from afar, nor did they hear the whistles of the patrols to inform each other of the emergency situation. They also didn't encounter any other abnormal things. Even the strange insects that they had been guarding against all this time didn't appear. The next day, Yangguang was bright and beautiful. Every family got up early and the first thing they did was to count the livestock in their animal pens. How is it? Not a single one is missing. A woman of the Feng tribe said happily to her husband after counting the livestock. The neighbors were also exchanging information to see who was unlucky enough to lose their livestock. However, after exchanging information for a whole morning, they found that no one had lost their livestock. A man who complained that he had lost his sheep had to count twice to make sure that they were all there because he had counted wrongly. This was the first time in a long time that no livestock had been lost. Listening to the information collected by his subordinates, Bei nodded. It seems that those insects were the ones who stole the livestock. It could be something else, but they were scared away last night. Someone whispered. The howling of the wolves last night was heard by everyone, whether they were sleeping at home or patrolling on the grassland. The patrols even saw with their own eyes that the beasts heard the howling and ran away. For a moment, the people of the Feng tribe envied the Yanjiao tribe in their hearts. How good it was to have such a wolf guarding them. Other livestock thieves didn't dare to come close. The people of the Yanjiao tribe stayed in the Feng tribe for 2 days before leaving, mainly to take care of the wanderers. After 2 days of treatment, the seriously injured were finally out of danger. Xiao Xian also took the opportunity to take some warriors to the mountains to chop some wood. When they came back, they made a simple carriage. Because there were limited materials and most of the tribe's skilled workers were not here, Xiao Xian basically finished it alone. The carriage he made was not as big as the one they had when they first returned to the old haunt. There was no roof, only a simple frame, and a straw mat woven by a wanderer to shelter Yang Guang. Because the wood was not very good and not very strong, it was okay to make do with it. As for pulling the carriage, this time he did not let Caesar pull it. Xiao Xian picked 2 adult horses to pull the carriage. Let the wounded who can't move get into the carriages. The wanderers were in a good mood. After 2 days of rest, they were in a much better state of mind. In addition, they had the totem warriors of the Yanjiao tribe with them this time. They felt relaxed and happy. When Anai's family left, Gua Er gave him a pony. Although Doya and other children of the same age who knew him didn't play together, they all went to see him off. When we meet again in the future, we will all be totem warriors, right? Gua Er looked at the people leaving and said, "Hey, where did Anai say their tribe was? If we go out in the future, we'll go and see him," said one of the children. Although he said that, his eyes were fixed on Caesar. Speaking of this, Gua Er was very entangled. My father said that they are in the ferocious beast mountain forest. The other children, even if they were far away, they also knew where the ferocious beast mountain forest was. After saying goodbye to the patrol of the Feng tribe, the Yanjiao people left with the wanderers and did not continue to go deep into the grassland. Although they were also very curious and wanted to see what other tribes on the grassland looked like, the task was more important. This time they mainly came to pick up the wanderers, not to wander around. When there was a chance in the future, they would go out for a long journey. After leaving the Feng tribe, they were almost out of the grassland. Xiao Xian still didn't see Cha-Cha's figure. Looking at the sky, Xiao Xian was puzzled. Why didn't Cha-Cha come back? When they came to the Feng tribe 2 days ago, Cha-Cha ran out to play alone and didn't follow them into the Feng tribe. Xiao Xian didn't care about it. He only told it not to go to other tribes to pick up livestock, or it would be shot by bows and arrows. At first, Xiao Xian didn't worry about it, but he didn't see it for 2 days. In the past, when Cha-Cha left him to play, it would come back every day to report. Now it disappeared directly. Everyone was planning to leave, but it didn't appear. Could it be that it ran to the other side of the mountain to watch the tribal war and forgot to come back? Fortunately, before leaving the grassland, Cha-Cha finally came back. Compared with when it came, Cha-Cha looked quite embarrassed. There were many wounds, and a lot of hair on its body had fallen off. Fortunately, it could fly back and its life was not in danger. Xiao Xian looked carefully. On Cha-Cha's body, some were scratched by sharp claws, some were pecked, and some were pulled out. However, although it was injured, it seemed to be very excited. "Who did it fight with?" Lang Jie asked. "It should be. It's probably a bird about the same size as it, or maybe it's the same species." Xiao Xian took a feather from Cha-Cha's bloody claws. This was Cha-Cha's trophy. When it flew back, it was still holding it in its claws. As for the blood on its claws, it was obvious that it wasn't its own. Cha-Cha had several feathers in its claws. Looking at the size and color of the feathers, they were almost exactly the same as the ones on Cha-Cha's body. If it wasn't for his understanding of Cha-Cha, Xueqi might have even mistakenly thought that the feathers were plucked from Cha-Cha's body. Look at this jubilant mood. Did you win? Lang Jie clicked his tongue. Ka. Cha-Cha responded, flapping its wings proudly. Unlike Caesar's closeness to the Yanjiao tribesmen, Cha-Cha had always been more distant to other people. Not to mention that there were many strangers in the team this time. After Xueqi applied medicine to it, it flew back to the sky and followed the team. This time, it didn't run around randomly. Xueqi helped to collect the feathers as trophies. When they returned, he would let Old Ku keep them. Every time Cha-Cha brought back trophies, Old Ku would always keep some for it. The wanderers were very curious about the two ferocious beasts in the team. However, Caesar and the others didn't dare to approach, and Cha-Cha in the sky was too far away, so they could only glance at them. They didn't expect that there would be ferocious beasts in the Yanjiao tribe. A tribe with ferocious beasts should be considered strong, right? After leaving the grassland, the team didn't go back directly, but went to another place. There, Ku and other team leaders who were responsible for gathering people on the grassland agreed that they would meet there after leaving the grassland. The grassland was very large, and there was more than one way out. It might be the shortest way for Ku and the others, but it might not be the same for other people on the grassland. Therefore they split up. There's a market there, and many travelers will pass by there. However, the place we agreed on is not at the market, but on a mountain. It's just close to the market. We'll use the whistle to contact each other. Ku and told Mai about their arrangement. In order to return to the old haunt and the tribe, they had paid a lot. The wanderers had always been a weak group. Even if they contacted each other, some people would die because of it. After 2 days of getting along, Mai had a preliminary understanding of Ku and Tuesday. He was a witty and calm person. No wonder old he and the others came to him for help. If he wasn't there, the wanderers in this direction on the grassland might not be able to come here safely. Although there were many untrustworthy people among the wanderers, most of them were loyal. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken such a big risk. Even when they heard that the tribe was in the ferocious beasts' mountain forest, they didn't retreat. After leaving the grassland, it took them another day to reach the market Ku and talked about. Because there were wanderers and livestock in the team, their speed was much slower. If they were only totem warriors, it would take them less than half a day to get there, but it was different with wanderers. The market was also a favorite place for many travelers who passed by the grassland. Some travelers of the grassland tribes would rest there before entering or leaving the grassland. Ku and was not sure where the other wanderers were. He had never left the grassland, and all he knew was the information he exchanged with food and other people. Then, he discussed with the other team leaders and finalized the information. When he arrived here, he was still in the dark. Even if he looked at the map, it was difficult to pinpoint the exact location, not to mention that they didn't have a map at that time. Ku and blew the wooden whistle according to the rhythm as agreed, but there was no response. Haven't they come yet? Someone said. No, we are late for a few days because of the tribal war. But the others, some of them are closer than us. Did they also encounter the tribal war? Even if they did, not every team would encounter it. The grassland doesn't fight every day. Someone retorted. It was reasonable to say that even if the other teams didn't all arrive, there should be at least 1 or 2 teams. However, no matter how Ku and blew the whistle, there was still no response. On the contrary, some travelers passing by always looked at such a strange team with curious eyes. If it weren't for the fierce warriors of the Yanjiao tribe and Caesar, which made the travelers afraid, there might have been several battles. Ku and was anxious when there was no response. Mai also frowned. Xueqi looked at the sky. Cha-Cha didn't give any hint, indicating that there were no active wanderers around. There are no groups of wanderers around here. Let's find a place to settle them down first, and then we'll continue to search. Xueqi said to Mai. It was not good to run around with so many wanderers and livestock. After searching the surrounding mountains and settling the wanderers and livestock, Xueqi, Mai, and more than 20 warriors left with Ku and to continue the search. The remaining half of the warriors and Caesar stayed to protect the wanderers. They looked around with Ku and and even scattered to search, but still didn't see any groups of wanderers. Ku and whistle was different from the one used by Xueqi. Mai was worried that even if others heard their whistle, As long as it was not the same as Xueqi's whistle, they would not respond. He could only take Xueqi wherever he went. After searching the mountains near the market, they didn't find anyone. Xueqi proposed to go to the market to inquire. After all, there were so many wanderers coming and going. It was okay to hide their whereabouts, but if they were seen, they should be able to get some information. Mai agreed. Anyway, there was no better way now, so he followed Xueqi's suggestion. Chapter 253. When they came to the market, there were scattered travelers walking around. Some of them were probably from the grassland tribes, who were closer to the market. They brought their things and set up their stalls, gathering with their tribesmen so that they wouldn't be bullied. At least the Mang tribe and the Eight Limbs tribes markets were guarded by these two tribes, so other people didn't dare to make trouble. If they always made trouble, they wouldn't give face to these two tribes, and would be remembered by these two tribes. But it was different here. There were often large-scale group fights. When Xueqi and the others arrived, a fight had just ended. The two traveling teams fought, and both sides suffered casualties. There were many bloodstains on the ground after the fight. Some people were cleaning up the corpses, while others didn't feel strange at all. Stepping on the ground full of flesh and blood, they still didn't change their expressions. This was a place where strength spoke, using the most primitive competition rules. If you didn't have strength, even if you were killed, no one would look at you. The good thing was that compared to the markets of the Mang tribe and the Eight Limbs tribe, there were fewer travelers here because they hadn't really entered the central region. In addition, it was close to the grassland, so most of the people were warriors from the grassland tribes. There were also some nearby tribesmen who came here to trade. Some of the people who set up stalls here took out cattle and sheep and other livestock to trade, and some were like the Pu tribe, who exchanged things from other places and then brought them here to sell. Most of the things on display in the market were livestock, food, tools and weapons, and there were also herbs. In general, the variety was far less than that of the Mang tribe and the Eight Limbs tribe, but it was still lively. After all, it was the only trading gathering place in this area. The tall and strong warriors were talking loudly. Some of them were talking, and when they failed to trade, they directly used their knives to kill. This kind of thing could be seen at any time. Xueqi asked around, but didn't hear about any wanderers groups coming here, which made Mai a little disappointed. It seemed that it wasn't so easy to find people. Xueqi didn't give up. Even in the market, he still whistled after walking for a while, hoping that there was someone in the market who could understand the whistle. Otherwise, how could he find other wanderers in such a big place? Or maybe, other wanderers weren't as lucky as them, and didn't meet the warriors sent by the Yanjiao tribe and got into trouble? Thinking about this, Xueqi walked behind Mai absent-mindedly. They walked around the market but found nothing. When they were about to leave, they heard a whistle when they passed by the mountain closest to the market. It was the same sound as Xueqi's whistle. It's them! Xueqi's eyes lit up. He looked around, but he couldn't tell where they were. Mai and the others had better hearing and immediately locked onto the location. Over there. Let's go. Mai was happy to finally have a clue, but at the same time, he was worried because the mountain was the resting place for travelers. Not only were there a lot of people, but they were also totem warriors. For tourists, it was not a good place. Xueqi had seen such a cave before. In the bazaar of the Mang and Eight Limbs tribes, he had followed the Pu tribe's traveling team to live in a similar cave. He had seen with his own eyes how they fought for the cave. There was no order, it was all based on strength. Because of this, he wondered why the wanderers that Xueqi mentioned would go there. The whistle blew twice and then stopped. Xueqi blew again, but there was no response. Why did they stop blowing? Langjie wondered. Maybe something really happened. Xueqi said. The mountain that served as the resting place seemed to have been hollowed out. There were several entrances and exits at the bottom of the mountain. The most important entrance directly divided the mountain that had been dug into a circular shape. Therefore, if one looked down from above, the mountain that served as a resting place for the travelers looked like a nearly 300-degree arc. Many of the mountain's entrances were dug out manually, and there were holes everywhere. When Xueqi and the others rushed to the mountain, 10 wanderers were standing on the circular mountain where travelers rested. Several of them were injured, but they didn't have time to wipe off the blood. In front of them, an expedition team had surrounded them. The others around looked at them as if they were watching a play. No one would intervene in this situation. This kind of thing added to their fun. They all stood at the entrance of their team and watched what happened over there. Among the 10 people, the leading wanderer was called Xueqi. He held a wooden whistle tightly in his hand. It was not him who blew the whistle, but a young man beside him. But before he could blow twice, Xueqi took the wooden whistle away from him. He naturally knew that his companions were nearby, but he couldn't let them come over. They were all wanderers, and here, it was like a big mouth full of sharp teeth. Those totem warriors were the sharp teeth in the big mouth. If wanderers came in, they would lose a layer of skin even if they didn't die. The 10 of them didn't matter. If others came, they would die. In front of Xueqi, the traveling team looked at them jokingly, as if they were playing with prey in a cage. Why don't you continue to blow? Are your companions coming? Continue to blow and call them over. I want to see what your companions look like. A man in the traveling team opposite said. Yes, continue to blow. We will take as many as they come. Are there any women? The people on the side echoed. Listening to the words of the people around them, Xueqi and his companions looked worse. But now they couldn't escape. Xueqi looked at the people in another cave not far away. There, he knew many of them, but no one stood up to help them. When everyone looked at Xueqi, in a cave higher up, a totem warrior carried a clay pot full of water into the cave. As he walked in, he said to other companions in the cave, "Wanderers are so bold now. Only 10 of them dare to come here." He had just gone to get water. When he went up the mountain, he saw the scene over there. Wanderers? How can wanderers come to such a place? Even if there are 100 of them, it will be useless. Someone in the cave asked. Who knows? The man holding the clay pot didn't care. If you want to know, you can go out and see. The fight hasn't started yet. What's there to see? If 2 traveling teams fight, I will be a little interested. Wanderers? Tut. The man curled his lips and leaned against the cave wall to look at the people coming out of the depths of the cave. Gula, what do you think Xuandao encountered? Did he really meet other eagles? The people coming out of the cave did not answer, but sighed. In the cave, an eagle with injuries stayed there to rest. There were many scratches and bites on its body. There were many bald places on its body. Its feathers were forcibly pulled out, and many places were still bleeding. It was better after applying medicine. Compared with Cha-Cha, this eagle named Xuandao, which was about the same size as Cha-Cha, was much more seriously injured. Gula took out the kettle and drank a few mouthfuls of water. He recalled the situation when he saw Xuandao come back this morning. They thought that Xuandao would not meet a strong enemy in the air. With Xuandao's size and strength, it would be good if he didn't kill other birds. The probability of encountering a strong enemy was too small, so they didn't worry much. Unexpectedly, when they saw him come back, they were all dumbfounded. At that time, Xuandao's feathers were stained with blood. Some of the feathers on his body were upside down, so he flew unsteadily. When he came back, he fell to the ground and screamed unwillingly. After some medicine, he calmed down. Now he was sleeping. Otherwise, if he woke up, he would probably continue to struggle and fly out to fight. What happened to him? Why was he injured like this? Gula didn't know. Among the people resting in the cave, 2 teenagers felt bored, so they went out of the cave to see how things were going over there. It turned out to be the people of the Dishan tribe. They can only bully some weak people. One of them looked at the traveling team over there and said contemptuously. Xueqi was thinking about how to deal with the current situation when he heard the whistle from outside the mountain again. It seemed that the whistler was afraid that he couldn't hear it. The whistler blew hard, and the sound was getting closer and closer. Xueqi was anxious. What were they doing here? Were they looking for death? The people of the Dishan tribe smiled with interest and looked at Xueqi, whose face was pale. The leader said, "It seems that your companions have found you. I'll say it again. Either you bring them here yourselves, or you and your companions will stay here." Xueqi's face was twitching because of excessive anger and anxiety. He turned his head and looked at the opening of the mountain. He thought, "Don't come in, don't." Not only Xueqi, but other people also looked curiously at the opening of the mountain below, where the whistle came from. Many people thought, wanderers nowadays are bold. They know that this is the territory of the totem warriors. If they come in, they will be easily killed, but they still come here. Are they fools? Above, 2 young warriors were lying on the walkway in front of the cave, craning their necks to look down. What did this daring man look like? Soon, everyone saw an ordinary-looking dark-skinned man running in with a wooden whistle in his mouth. Looking at his side. Now, the people in the mountain were confused. There were more than 20 people who came in with the whistler. They didn't look like wanderers. Mai glanced around and stopped at the place where Xueqi was. He didn't wait for Xuan-Tu to find the way up the mountain. He quickly walked a few steps, grabbed Xuan-Tu's animal skin coat, bent his legs and bounced his body up. For the people of the Flaming Horns tribe, climbing mountains was a common thing. They were very familiar with it. No matter how steep the mountain was, they would climb it every time they hunted. Therefore, for them, in this mountain where the travelers rested, they could easily reach their destination without taking a path. Like monkeys climbing a tree, more than 20 people jumped up the mountain in the blink of an eye and stood where Xueqi and the people of the Dishan tribe were. They are really totem warriors. Except for totem warriors, wanderers can't go up the mountain so easily. It's as easy as climbing a tree. But why are those totem warriors with wanderers? Did the wanderer ask for help? The people in the mountain were talking. Chapter 254. More than 20 people directly climbed up from the foot of the mountain, almost vertically. In less than a breath, they all stood in front of the Dishan tribe. Seeing this scene, people could not help but wonder which tribe they were from. Seeing Xuan-Tu, who was easily lifted up, Xueqi was a little confused. He knew Xuan-Tu, but who were these people? However, feeling the familiar breath of these more than 20 people, Xueqi thought of a possibility. His heart suddenly jumped, and he even forgot to breathe. Seeing that Xueqi was silent, Xuan-Tu stepped forward and asked, "What happened?" Thinking of Mai and the others, Xuan-Tu quickly introduced, "These are the people from the tribe who came to pick us up. Mai is a senior totem warrior. And Uncle Wei is also a senior totem warrior." Wei was originally the vice-captain of Ta's advance group, and he was also one of the few people who were sent out this time. Knowing that Xiao Xian was going to pick up wanderers and livestock, Ao let Wei go with him. In terms of seniority, Wei had a higher status than Mai, but most of the people in this team were Mai's subordinates. Wei did not want to seize power. The chief said that he was only responsible for assisting this time. Hearing that there were 2 senior totem warriors, Xueqi and the others were excited, and they suddenly felt confident. Therefore, only those who had a tribe could have a backer. Xueqi was so excited that he did not know what to say, but the young man beside him was quick to talk. After knowing Mai's identity, he simply told the whole story. When Xueqi and the others arrived at the appointed place, they found that there were many travelers there, so they wanted to stay a little farther away to avoid conflicts with those traveling teams. Unexpectedly, before they left, they were stopped by 8 people of the Dishan tribe. They took a fancy to several young women in the team and wanted to rob them. Of course, Xueqi and the others did not want to. Fortunately, the 8 people were only junior totem warriors, and Xueqi had more people. Because of the rekindling of the fire in the old land, they got some strength and worked together to drive the 8 people away. However, some people in the team were seriously injured because of this, and 2 of them were killed on the spot. Xueqi took the team to a place far away from the market to settle the people in the team. He himself took 10 people out to look for herbs. Otherwise, if they were left alone, the seriously injured would not last more than a few days. While they were looking for herbs, Xueqi met people from another tribe. Before he left the grassland, he had been living in that tribe. His situation was similar to old He's. Some people in the other team also knew Xueqi, so they asked Xueqi to go with them to the cave where they were resting to get the herbs. When they came out, the things were placed in the cave where they were resting. However, when Xueqi and the others arrived at the mountain, they found that the 8 people who had troubled them before were from the Dishan tribe, and the cave where the Dishan tribe rested was right next to them. It happened to be blocked. The people of the Dishan tribe asked Xueqi to go back and bring the young women in the team here. Otherwise, they would kill all 10 of them. That's right. They just heard the whistle and said that they would kill as many people as they could. The young wanderer next to Xueqi began to complain. The faces of the people of the Dishan tribe twitched, and they thought, "Nonsense, when did we say that we would kill as many people as we want? Although we thought so in our hearts, we didn't say so directly." When Mai and the others learned the reason, they suddenly became angry. Their evil spirit was unreservedly emitted from their bodies. They were like ferocious beasts that were ready to pounce on their prey. Pairs of fierce eyes stared at the people of the Dishan tribe. Xiao Xian looked at the team of the Dishan tribe. Actually, he saw a few familiar faces, but these people might not remember him. When he was in the Longboat tribe, Xiao Xian had met this team and killed several of them. It was really a small world. The people around, who had been watching the fun carelessly, suddenly became excited. The Wanderers and the Totem Warriors had upgraded to a contest between the Totem Warriors. It was interesting, but they didn't know which tribe these people were from. Seeing this team of people, the people of the Dishan tribe were stunned. They were secretly surprised. Weren't they Wanderers? How could so many warriors suddenly appear? 2 of them were senior Totem Warriors. Leader. The people of the Dishan tribe looked at the leader of the team and asked what to do next. The leader of the Dishan tribe changed his expression. His eyes stayed on Mai and Wei for a long time. He held the stone knife tightly in his hand and said, "Good. Very good. I didn't expect there to be a tribe. Which tribe are you from?" Mai took a step forward. There was a fist-sized stone under his feet. He didn't avoid it, but directly stepped on it. He said in a low voice, "The Yanjiao tribe." As his voice fell, there was a bang sound under Mai's feet. The stone was broken. Even the walkway outside the cave was shaking, and the people around were shocked. The Yanjiao tribe? They had never heard of it. Some people thought it was familiar, but they couldn't tell too much. In short, in everyone's eyes, they couldn't tell why. They were all from small tribes, so they didn't need to care. Seeing that Mai didn't want to retreat, the leader of the Dishan tribe was also angry. So what if the other side had 2 senior Totem Warriors? They had 3 on their side. Besides, they had more people. How could they be afraid of 20 people with more than 100 people? So you don't want to hand them over? The leader asked. Those who bully my tribe. Mai looked straight at the leader, and his eyes flashed fiercely. Die. So arrogant. Mai's words stunned the people around him. This Yanjiao tribe was really overbearing. They were simply arrogant. Didn't they see the faces of the people of the Dishan tribe turn black? Mai's words were also what the other people of the Yanjiao tribe thought. From the other side of the river, they had worked hard to return to the old haunt. Along the way, they had learned a lot. The face of the tribe naturally had to be protected. Outside, they couldn't retreat when they encountered such things. The courage in their bones didn't allow them to send their tribesmen to the other side's cave. So what if they were from the Dishan tribe? So what if they had more people? They would still do it. In the face of the more aggressive momentum of the 20 people of the Yanjiao tribe, the leader of the traveling team of the Dishan tribe felt a little uneasy. None of these people flinched, and none of them had the intention to retreat. More than 20 forces were almost twisted together, like a fierce flaming broadsword, ready to fight to the death at any time. It was really tricky. It was better to test it out. The leader of the Dishan tribe made a gesture with his hand behind his back. A warrior on the side suddenly took a few steps forward. He didn't face Mai and Wei, but stepped towards Xueqi and the others. "So what if I bully you?" As he spoke, the man pulled out an arm-long stone knife hanging from his waist. Under Yang Guang's hand, the knife had a luster like the dusk, as if it was going to bring the night. With the sudden outbreak of the totem power, the totem patterns on the man's body appeared. He kicked the ground with one leg, and the tip of the knife was aimed at Xueqi, who was standing behind Xiao Xian. The next moment, Xueqi's head would be cut off. Seeing that the man suddenly attacked him, Xueqi felt a strong sense of crisis, and he couldn't help but take a step back. However, Xiao Xian, who was standing in front of him, didn't retreat. At the moment when the man stabbed him, Xiao Xian suddenly swung his arm. The gray shadow of the knife was mixed with a strong murderous aura. It was obviously the color of an ordinary stone, but at this moment, it gave people a feeling of extreme coldness. At a faster speed than the man, the knife swept from front to back and passed through the man's body without a trace of stagnation. Where the blade passed, blood splashed out. This knife didn't bring dusk, but eternal night. The blade was stained with the color of blood, shocking the heart and soul. Puff! The man who rushed over was in a daze. His body was broken into 2 parts. His attack lost its support, and the blade lost its murderous aura. The broken body fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust, while the other half rushed out of the walkway in front of the cave and fell down the mountain. Xiao Xian did not look back at the part that had fallen to the ground, but looked at the other people of the Dishan tribe. He repeated Mai's words, which was also a reply to what Mai had just said. "Those who bully my tribesmen, die." Obviously, His tone was not as strong as Mai's, but it made the listeners feel as cold as ice. Many people around couldn't help but shiver. In front of the people of the Dishan tribe, this guy was so decisive. He directly cut the man in half? These people of the Yanjiao tribe didn't have any scruples. Some people re-evaluated the people of the Yanjiao tribe in their hearts. The man who came out of the Dishan tribe just now was an intermediate totem warrior. Not a beginner. He didn't even have time to escape, and was directly cut off. If it were them, could they escape? Many people thought in their hearts, but found that they were not sure. Regardless of whether it was the speed or the strength of that strike, it was frightening. The people of the Dishan tribe looked at the half-body on the ground, and then looked at Xiao, who was staring at them. Many people subconsciously stepped back. If there were no people behind them, they probably would have left the battle. Above, the two young people who saw the scene just now raised their eyebrows. My ancestor! He cut him off with one knife. What's so strange? The wanderers didn't have much power to resist. It's normal to be killed with one knife. Someone in the cave heard them and said, it's not a wanderer, it's a man from the Dishan tribe. He was cut off with one knife. What? The people in the cave were shocked. Is he really just an intermediate totem warrior? Is he the third senior totem warrior hiding in the team? Another young man said, no, he's not a senior, but he's very strong. Besides, he's so young. How could he be a senior totem warrior? He's not from the big tribes in the central area. Hearing the discussion of the two young people outside the cave, the people resting in the cave couldn't sit still. Just now, they also felt the strong murderous intent. They guessed that the battle below had escalated, but they didn't know what had happened. They only felt that the atmosphere in the mountains seemed to be stagnant for a moment. Although it had eased up now, it was far less active than before. Let me see what kind of people you are. You're so surprised. Gula came out and looked at the cave of the Dishan tribe below. Chapter 255. At this time, in the mountain where travelers could rest, most of the people outside the cave were paying attention to the Dishan tribe's cave. They were curious about the strange tribal warriors and Xiao's attack. People who heard the words Yanjiao tribe were also discussing with each other. They couldn't come up with an answer, so they asked people from other tribes. Where did this tribe come from? Why did these people suddenly appear here? And why were they so powerful? The more than 20 totem warriors of the Yanjiao tribe did not pay attention to other people in the mountain. They had been paying attention to the travelers of the Dishan tribe, and were ready to fight at any time. Qi stared at the back of Xiao in front of him, and then looked at the bleeding body at his feet. He glanced at Kuan-Tu and asked what to do next. Should he fight with these warriors of the tribe, or avoid them? He was not afraid of death. If he could fight with these totem warriors of the tribe, it would be worth dying. With these warriors of the tribe, even if he died, the wanderers who followed him would be taken care of and taken back to the tribe. Kuan-Tu did not know what to do. Xiao was confronting a senior totem warrior, and the one closest to him was Xiao. Therefore, Kuan-Tu could not help but look at Xiao. Noticing Kuan-Tu's gaze, Xiao looked sideways and raised his chin to the side of the path outside the cave. There were some raised stones in the shape of stairs, which were the stairs to go up and down the mountain. Even people who had not awakened their totem power could walk on those raised stones. Was he asking them to avoid? Kuan-Tu understood. Once the totemic warriors fought with each other, they would not be able to cry if they were accidentally stabbed to death. Although they were stronger than before, wanderers were wanderers. Compared with Xiao, who had just killed someone, they were not strong enough. Forget it, they'd better not get in the way here. Kuan-Tu signaled Qi and others to go down the mountain with him. The interaction between Xiao and Kuan-Tu was naturally seen by the people of the Dishan tribe. Seeing Kuan-Tu leave, some people wanted to stop them, but they noticed someone staring at them. They looked over and met Xiao's eyes. The soldiers of the Dishan mountain swallowed their saliva and retracted their feet. No one from the Dishan tribe stopped them, and the other onlookers didn't want to get involved. They all made way for Kuan-Tu and the others to go down the mountain. If Xiao and Mai had not appeared, but only Kuan-Tu and the others, these people would naturally have a different attitude. There was a clear difference between wanderers and tribesmen. When Qi left, he glanced at the cave next to the Dishan tribe. He had known several people in the traveling team of the grassland tribe for more than 10 years. He thought he had a good relationship with them, but they didn't stand up to stop the Dishan tribe. They didn't even say a word for them. When they met Xueqi's eyes, those people looked away unnaturally. In fact, if the Dishan tribe hadn't made trouble for them, they would have given Xueqi some herbs. However, since Xueqi had offended the Dishan tribe, they wouldn't easily intervene. No one wanted to offend the totem warriors of a tribe for a wanderer. After glancing at them, Xueqi left quickly with Kuan Tuesday. He didn't blame them, but he wouldn't have a deep relationship with them in the future. When Xueqi and the others went down the mountain, a man came out of the cave of the Dishan tribe. He was the third senior totem warrior in the traveling team of the Dishan tribe. When he came out, the 3 totem warriors of the Dishan tribe were all there. "What's going on?" The man came out with a stone stick thicker than a thigh. The stone looked good, and it should be at least superior. The stone stick was a little thin, and could be held with one hand. Probably because it was often used, there were some dents caused by fingers in the place where he held it. It was unknown how many people and animals had died under the stone cudgel. There was still a lot of dried blood on the cudgel that had not been washed away. Or perhaps, he deliberately did not wash it and left it behind to frighten people. A blood-stained stone tool was always more impressive than a smooth stone tool that had nothing. The man who came out listened to a warrior next to him say a few words, and then he burst into laughter. He put the stone stick on the ground and laughed so hard that he couldn't stand up straight. However, the people of the Dishan tribe, who were familiar with his character, trembled in their hearts. The more he laughed, the more murderous he was. With the laughter, the man who held the stone stick quickly gathered murderous intent between his eyebrows, and his face became gloomy and twisted. After laughing, he glanced around like a poisonous snake. He didn't look at the half-body on the ground, but at Xiao Xian. "You're courting death." "Ma is right," the leader of the Dishan tribe, who was confronting Mai, said. They really didn't need to be afraid of the boy's knife, and they didn't need to panic when they saw the 2 senior totem warriors. He looked at the wanderers who had gone down the mountain with hatred, and then looked directly at Mai. 2 senior totem warriors. So what? More than 20 people are strong, so what? We have 3 senior totem warriors, many intermediate totem warriors, and many junior totem warriors. If we really launch a group attack, how can these people resist? Since they want to die, let's kill them. To survive in this world, strength was not the only thing that mattered. A fierce reputation was also very important. Why could the Dishan tribe easily occupy the big cave on the mountainside, and no other tribe dared to come and rob it? It was because of the fierce reputation of the Dishan tribe. Once a provocateur appeared, they would mercilessly kill him, so that others would not dare to resist or provoke them. Only by killing and blood could they spread their fierce reputation and make more people afraid. Just like the Wanshi tribe, who lived in the ferocious beasts mountain forest, and made people tremble when they heard the name. Looking at the change of the other side's face, Mai also understood the other side's choice. Without saying anything, his totem power suddenly soared. Totem lines appeared on his face, neck, and exposed arms. The stone knife in his hand seemed to be integrated with Mai's body at this moment. The violent power and the sound of the rapid friction between the body and the air were like the howling of the wild beasts in the forest. Mai, like a fierce predator, rushed to the prey. His stone knife was like the sharp claws of a giant beast that locked on the prey in the forest, directly chopping towards the head of the leader of the travel team of the Wanshi tribe. At the moment when Mai took action, the other people of the Yanjiao tribe also took action almost at the same time. They didn't need any other preparation at all and directly entered the fighting state. This was the tacit understanding they had developed in hunting in the forest time and time again. They didn't need to say anything more, and when it was time to take action, no one would shout nonsense before taking action. In the forest, one more sound would alert the prey. If they shouted loudly before taking action, the people in the hunting team would have starved to death. More than 20 people, almost at the same time, mobilized the totem power in their bodies. At this moment, their momentum soared, like a mountain that suddenly rose from the ground, overturned and pressed towards the Dishan tribe. They completely broke the fierce momentum that the Dishan tribe had accumulated because of the arrival of Ma. The people of the Dishan tribe, who were thinking about weighing the pros and cons, didn't react quickly because of this sudden change. Except for the 3 senior totem warriors and some people who were alert and sensitive, the others were slow for a moment. Those who were slow to react had yet to make a move when the sharp saber chi brought about by the stone saber had already arrived. Just the wind brought about by the swing of the saber could make people feel the ferocity of the saber. Chi 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 chi. More than 10 warriors of the Dishan tribe, who didn't react quickly, were directly chopped. The flashing sharp weapons brought about a bloody aura of slaughter. With the tacit cooperation of more than 20 people, there was no mistake in this sudden attack. Every time it seemed like they did not care about anything, they would always be able to avoid their own people and slash at the enemy. Although there were only more than 20 people, it gave people the feeling that thousands of troops and horses were passing by. Wherever they passed, there were broken limbs and remains, and blood rained in the wind. The wind blew into the mountain, bringing the pungent smell of blood to all parts of the mountain. After seeing this scene, the onlookers, who had been staring at the scene, changed their expressions. Killing happened every day. Here it was either I kill you or you kill me. Everyone was used to it and was numb to it. However, this was the first time they had seen such a fierce attack. The people of the Dishan tribe were so shocked that their scalps almost jumped up. After they came to themselves, they began to fight back. Ma used almost all his strength in every attack to fight against the leader of the travel team of the Dishan tribe. He still kept the habit of hunting and didn't hide his strength. Facing the leader of the Dishan tribe, he didn't dodge, but directly confronted him in this rude and fierce way. Every step he took was like a giant palm of a heavy fierce beast stepping on the ground. The stones under his feet were certainly broken into pieces, and the stone chips and dust flew everywhere. Boom! The two leaders collided. Their strengths met on a narrow path, and neither of them wanted to back down. The moment the ground under their feet collided, the mountain rocks that were originally one piece cracked, and the stones flew out like a blooming stone lotus. On the other side, after the initial shock, Ma was endlessly angry. He didn't expect that the people of the Yanjiao tribe dared to attack him directly. Ma hit the man in front of him with his stick, and rushed to the nearest totem warrior, regardless of his tribesman's life or death. The people who had been around Ma hurriedly scattered and no longer moved forward. If they interfered with Ma's battle, they would be hit by the stick, just like the poor tribesman. Seeing Ma rushing to Lang Jie, Xiao changed his target and rushed there. Lang Jie could deal with other people, but he was at a disadvantage when fighting against Ma. Unexpectedly, there was a sudden attack from the side. Ma had no time to deal with Lang Ga. He raised his stone stick above his head and collided with the knife. At the moment when he blocked the knife momentum, Ma's eyes could not help but change. Because of the collision, a strong impact came from his wrists, arms and shoulders. Even though he was a senior totem warrior, he could not underestimate this power. Looking at the person who made this attack, Ma was surprised again. It was the young man who had killed the intermediate totem warrior in the team with one attack. Chapter 256. Ma could not help but think. Since Xiao had found him, he naturally would not pay attention to others. Ma moved his body and tilted his stone stick to one side, trying to remove the thread of the knife. However, Ma did not expect that Xiao's next move was much faster than he had imagined. At the moment when the knife in his hand collided with the stone stick, Xiao lifted it up with the help of the reverse force generated by the collision, and then chopped it down again. This kind of chopping was similar to chopping ferocious beasts in hunting. However, this was not the end. The third chop, the fourth chop. Xiao chopped one after another. As long as the stone stick moved a little bit, Ma would not be able to keep his head. Under such intensive attacks, Ma could only raise his stick to resist the attack. The knife chopped the stone stick fiercely, and the stone chips splashed out. The harsh crashing sound was clear again and again in this ring-shaped mountain, even suppressing the sound of other people fighting around. The thunderous and almost breathless attacks made the surrounding people's jaws drop. They all looked over there in a daze. Before the battle, they would not have believed that such a situation would happen. Who was Ma? The travelers who often rested here were naturally familiar with it. It was one of the reasons why the Dishan tribe was notorious. But now, this notorious senior totem warrior of the Dishan tribe was defeated by a young intermediate totem warrior of the Flaming Horns tribe, who came out of nowhere. They didn't know where the Flaming Horns tribe came from, but they didn't expect him to be beaten like this. However, the boy was also strange. He was not a senior totem warrior, but his strength and speed were much higher than that of other intermediate totem warriors. Looking at the other people of the Yanjiao tribe, everyone was surprised again. It seemed that the people of the Yanjiao tribe were a little strange. It was impossible for totem warriors of the same level to gain the upper hand in a one-on-one fight. However, the strangest thing was the boy who beat Huma. They thought that the Dishan tribe would win because there were 2 senior totem warriors on one side and 3 senior totem warriors on the other side. But now, it was hard to judge for a while, but if it continued like this, everyone was not optimistic about the Dishan tribe's chances. It was a kind of overwhelming momentum. Even his aura had lost. What was the point of fighting? Even if they won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory where they would lose an arm or a leg. They would not be able to recover in a short period of time. Therefore, if they wanted to avoid such a situation, the 3 leaders of the traveling team of the Dishan tribe had to change the current situation. Looking at the other 2 sides, the crowd once again looked at Huma and Xueqi. The opportunity for the Dishan tribe to turn the situation around depended on Huma. The other 2 were not in a good situation. Although Huma was notorious in this area, he was not a fool. He immediately understood the current situation on his side. Beads of sweat dripped from his forehead, but he didn't bother to wipe them off. He did not expect such a situation. He was actually suppressed by such a young person to the point that he did not even have the time to fight back. Other than defending, he was still defending. Against such an attack, there was nothing he could do. He was only an intermediate totem warrior. Although there was something strange about him, Huma was sure of it. Disgrace. This was simply a disgrace. The angrier Huma was, the more concentrated he was. Between life and death, especially in a fight between masters, one careless mistake would lead to death. Naturally, Huma was in a difficult situation more than once. When Xueqi swung the sword again, Huma roared violently, and his totem power increased again, almost to the limit. With a bang, the stone under Huma's feet sank into a pit in an instant. Huma was also short in an instant. Under his feet in the pit, the straw sandals made of vines had already been broken. Huma bent his knees, and at this moment, he was like an arrow on the string, ready to shoot. At the moment when the sword and the stick collided, Huma's full strength broke out. The pit under Huma's feet sank deeper, and the broken stones and stone chips around were shaken up high. If one was close enough, he could even hear some cracking sounds on the stone ground under his feet. This time, Xueqi did not chop continuously. His sword was pushed away. With the force of the chop, Xueqi retreated and landed on the ground. He did not attack again for a while. Holding the sword, Xueqi's hand was bleeding. Withstanding the power of Huma's explosion, Xueqi was not completely unscathed. His whole arm was numb. Looking at the stone sword, Xueqi found that there was an obvious gap on it. According to Xueqi's understanding of this stone sword, it could only withstand 2 attacks from Huma, and would be broken when the 3rd attack came. Above, the young man who had been watching the battle below said excitedly, "I didn't expect that the boy could push Huma like this. Looking at his age, he should be about the same as me." He was happy to see Huma being defeated. But another young man next to him was not so optimistic. He looked a little more dignified. "It's not good. That boy is really pitiful." Coming out of the cave, Gula, who saw the scene just now, nodded and said lightly, "Just now, the boy didn't kill Huma in one breath. I'm afraid that he will be at a disadvantage later." The boy's style of fighting, his advantage lies in his explosive attack and surprise attack. When he attacked Huma just now, it was also a surprise attack. Otherwise, it was difficult to achieve such a situation of suppression. But now, Huma has recovered, and the boy will not have a second chance. Indeed, even if he is stronger than others, the boy is only an intermediate totem warrior. This is undeniable. The man next to Gula said. Gula's eyes moved, and he reminded them. "Did you notice that the kid mobilized the totem power faster than the other 2 senior totem warriors? The faster the totem power mobilized, the more skillful he is in controlling the totem power." Hearing this, the others were silent. They really did not notice this just now. If so, it was really shocking. The boy was not worse than those in the central tribes, not to mention that he was still young. One of them clicked his tongue and said, "Where did this Flaming Horns tribe come from? It is reasonable to say that with such strength, they should be famous. Is it too far from here?" More than 20 people could defeat the team of the Dishan tribe. What about the whole tribe? How many people were as strange as that boy? While they were talking above, the situation in front of the cave of the Dishan tribe was still going on. Huma, who came out of the sunken pit, exuded a violent aura. He walked barefoot on the ground. Wherever he passed, the broken stones were crushed into stone chips. His bloodshot eyes were as if he wanted to devour people. Seeing Huma like this, the surrounding people of the Dishan tribe could not help but retreat again. For a time, there was an empty field. There were only Huma and Xiao on the other side of the field. Huma's toes scratched the ground. His figure flashed, and he rushed straight toward Xiao. Every step he took formed a dent in the ground, and the ground shook quickly. Stone chips and dust were raised high. Huma's arm, which was holding the stone stick, swelled and became thicker. With the shaking of his shoulders, his arm was like a whip, whipping toward Xiao. Wherever his arm passed, the air whistled. Xiao listened carefully to the surrounding movements. His eyes flashed. He did not retreat, but moved forward. When he was about to fight with Huma, he suddenly changed his steps. The strong momentum just now seemed to dissipate in an instant. He was like a slippery and cunning loach. He turned his body and changed his direction. The original attack was changed into a retreat, and he quickly retreated a few meters. Boom! The stone stick hit the ground, and the ground shook again. Where the stone stick hit, there was another dent in the ground. Huma did not stop, but continued to attack. Just like when Xiao attacked at the beginning, he did not give Xiao any time to breathe. The huge stone stick seemed to be weightless, and it was integrated with his arm. It was like a rainstorm, and every time it hit, it was like a heavy hammer hit. The splashing stone chips, like blooming flowers, constantly scattered and withered. The surrounding people also avoided it. No one wanted to be shrouded in such a dangerous area. Therefore, even though there were many people of the Dishan tribe, many people did not take action, especially around the three leaders. They even left an empty field. Bang! Another heavy blow hit the ground, but it did not hit the target. Xiao's dodging was really slippery. Even the calm onlookers could not figure out why Xiao dodged like that. Retreat? No. Go in? No. Sometimes that guy even appeared in the previous position. Was that confidence? Or was he looking for death? Above, the people who had been paying attention to the battle looked at Gu La. Just now, Gu La said that Xiao would definitely be at a disadvantage, but now it seemed that it was not certain who would be at a disadvantage. Gu La could not help blushing. He really did not expect that Xiao would suddenly change his style. Well, look, keep watching, Gu La said. Huma's stone stick was probably the most seriously damaged in the past year. Even the best stone could not withstand such heavy blows again and again. Crack, crack. The ground under his feet made a cracking sound. Such a sound was not made by one or two stones, but by the whole thing. It was made by the mountain. The people with keen hearing could not help but be stunned. For the travelers who had experienced a lot, such a sound was not strange. The people of the Yanjiao tribe also felt the same. For a moment, it seemed that the pause button was suddenly pressed in the field, and the battle stopped. Probably because of the battle just now, a protruding stone was broken. Now, the stone was detached from the mountain, rolling down and hitting the walkway in front of the cave of the Dishan tribe, making a bang. Crack, crack, crack. A clearer sound came again. No one made a move, but the ground under their feet was trembling. The mountain was going to collapse. They did not know whether other places were also collapsing. No matter whether it would collapse now or not, it was better to avoid this place first. Even senior totem warriors could not be intact if they fell or were injured. No one wanted to be injured because of this. People of the Dishan tribe and the Yanjiao tribe had no time to fight. Some of the people of the Dishan tribe went into the cave, and some retreated to both sides of the walkway. Except for Xiao. Just when everyone wanted to avoid, Xiao suddenly stepped on the ground and rushed towards Huma. He waved his sword at Huma, who was about to run to the entrance of the cave. Huma was so angry that his lungs hurt. He did not expect that at this time, Xiao would attack regardless of anything. Chapter 257. Seeing that Xiao attacked again, Huma could only raise his stick to block the attack of the knife again. One knife. Two knives. The ground under Huma's feet shook because of the two fierce attacks, and the cracking sound became faster. Just when everyone thought that there would be another intensive attack like the beginning, the third knife came. With a bang, the knife in Xiao's hand was cut off from the gap. When the third knife was cut, Xiao Xian lowered his body and his momentum suddenly changed. He slid past Huma flexibly. The broken half of the knife was still held in Xiao Xian's hand. Like a gust of wind, Huma was cut on his waist before he could escape. Huma did not expect such a situation to happen. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and slightly avoided it. Xiao Xian only had half of the knife in his hand. If the knife was intact, Huma would probably be cut in two like the man who was cut in two at the beginning. Although the wound was not fatal, it was not small. Cold sweat dripped down. Huma was really frightened by this knife. Feeling the vibration of the mountain under his feet, Huma did not care about anything else. He did not even cover his wound, and ran quickly to the cave with his stick. At this time, Kuan Tu and others who had already gone down the mountain looked up anxiously. After all, they were not real totem warriors. Their eyesight was limited, so they could not see the scene above clearly. They could only guess the situation above from the discussions of the travelers around them. Like others, they were not optimistic about the 20 people of Yanjiao, especially the senior totem warriors. In such a battle, one more master meant one more guarantee of victory. No matter what, Kuan Tu and Qi felt that Yanjiao was at a disadvantage. However, judging from the discussions they heard, the situation above was really different from what they imagined. Kuan Tu, I can't see clearly. Tell me, who is fighting with Huma? After living on the grassland for a long time, Qi naturally heard of the Dishan tribe, which had a bad reputation. He also heard the name of Huma. However, Qi really couldn't think of anyone who could fight against Huma and not fall into a disadvantageous position. He even slashed Huma. Kuan Tu couldn't see clearly either. He thought hard about the 20 or so people who came with him. Among them, there was only one person who agreed with the discussion of the travelers. Are you Xiao Xian? It should be him. Apart from him, I can't think of anyone else who is the youngest intermediate totem warrior who uses a stone knife. But Huma is a senior totem warrior, one of the top 3 in the traveling team of the Dishan tribe. Qi couldn't believe it. Kuan Tu raised his eyes. Did you see when Xiao Xian cut the intermediate totem warrior in half? Qi fell silent. That saber strike had indeed given Qi quite a shock. Crack, 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 crack. Above them, the sound of the mountain collapsing became clearer. All the people under the cave of the Dishan tribe hurriedly avoided it. If that part of the mountain collapsed, they would be seriously injured, even if they didn't die. What's more, the passage in front of the cave at that height was the widest in the whole crater. The people who could rest in the cave at that height were all powerful. After hundreds of years of development, the passage of about 10 meters wide was naturally formed. In comparison, there were only a few tribes resting in the caves near the top of the mountain. They were almost exclusively used by the tribes. No one was stupid enough to rob them. Therefore, there were fewer disputes and fewer people moving around. The opening of the passageway was limited. Therefore, looking down from the top, the protruding passage at the level where the Dishan tribe rested was the widest. If it collapsed, the threat to the people below was naturally not to be underestimated. Seeing that the situation was not good, the people below hurriedly avoided that section. The people at the bottom of the mountain also hurriedly took away the animals tied there. It was not fun if that section fell down. In front of the cave of the Dishan tribe, Huma heard another bang behind him. It was the sound of people's footsteps on the ground. Huma gritted his teeth and sped up towards the cave. The wound on his waist spurted blood because of the violent running. Seeing the man with a bow at the entrance of the cave, Huma roared, "Shoot him to death." Huma also knew that if he could shoot him to death, he would have done so long ago. But at this time, he needed someone to stop Xiao Xian. He didn't want to fall down with this section of the mountain. The archers in the cave reacted quickly. They pulled their bows and shot at Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian's footsteps paused a little to avoid those arrows. He stamped on the ground vigorously, and some egg-sized stones were shaken up. Seeing Xiao Xian stamping on the ground vigorously again, many people wanted to vomit blood. Damn it, it's about to collapse, and you're still stamping on it. Crack, crack, crack. Clear cracks appeared under Xiao Xian's feet and extended outward, connecting with a crack on the mountain wall. Boom! A section of the mountain with a length of more than 30 meters collapsed nearly an arm's height. Many stones of different sizes collapsed from the mountain and rolled down. The people below saw that the situation was not right and dodged, so they were not hit by the falling stones. However, looking at the rolling stones, the travelers in the surroundings could not help but tremble. No matter which side they were from, no matter where they came from, the travelers were all frightened by this sudden change. How long had it been since the Dishan tribe and the Flaming Horns tribe started to fight? Why did it collapse just like that? What kind of strength was this? No wonder that many tribes did not allow senior totem warriors to fight. The destructive power was indeed too great. Xueqi did not retreat because of the collapse of the mountain. He swung his arm that was holding the broken sword. The body of the sword collided with the trembling rocks, pushing the rocks away with great force. The rocks did not shatter, but they were still as fast as meteors. The sound of bones and bodies being pierced was not obvious in the rumbling of the mountain, but the people who had just shot the arrows in the cave fell down one by one. Mai and the others did not delay. Xueqi's behavior was not impulsive, but to attract the attention of the archers at the entrance of the cave, giving them a chance to evacuate. More than 20 people of the Yanjiao tribe were also injured. 3 of them could not walk. If the archers shot at them, they would not be able to escape. Fortunately, the archers had all their attention on Xueqi, who was approaching the entrance of the cave, so the others could take their injured companions away as soon as possible. On the other hand, although there were many broken limbs and corpses on the ground of the Dishan tribe, there were still some people who could not move. However, they were all abandoned. Seeing the archers fall down one by one, Huma pushed the people next to him aside and took out his strong bow. This bow was made by himself with the best horns in the tribe and bamboo traded from the Mang tribe with a lot of livestock. It was different from the bows just now. He put the bow on the string. Chirp! There was a violent sound of tearing in the air, and a strong arrow flew out from the string. This arrow was much faster than the arrows shot by the archers, and its lethality was also several times stronger. Xueqi did not avoid it, but turned his wrist and blocked the arrow with his knife. Bang! The stone arrowhead of the arrow was broken, leaving a dent on Xueqi's knife. Feeling the strength in his hand, Xueqi's eyes brightened and he looked at the bow in Huma's hand in the cave. He did not know whether this was the best bow they had. If it was stronger, Xueqi wanted to find materials to make a bow that the totem warriors could draw with all their strength after returning to the tribe. In that case, it would be a great help to deal with the Wanshe tribe in the future. It was not enough. If the bow was stronger, and the strength was greater. Seeing that Xueqi blocked the arrow, Huma did not stop. He took out 3 arrows, put them on the string, and shot them almost at the same time. After that, he quickly took out 3 more arrows from the quiver. Taking out the arrows, drawing the bow, and shooting them, all in a short time, which showed his proficiency. However, the strength that the bow could bear was limited. Huma, a senior totem warrior, had to suppress the strength when he wanted to shoot these arrows. Otherwise, the bow would be broken if the strength exceeded the strength that the bow could bear. Huma's purpose was not to shoot Xueqi. It would be better if he could shoot him to death. If not, he could force him to fall down with a mountain. Xueqi didn't move forward anymore. He stomped on the ground to avoid the 3 arrows that were shot at him. He then waved his broken sword to block the arrows that followed. Unfortunately, he only had half of his sword left, so blocking the arrows took a lot of effort. If the sword was whole, it would be easier. Seeing that the people in the tribe had retreated, Xueqi stamped his foot on the ground. The rocks on the cliff seemed to have been hit by a strong earthquake, and the gravel fell from the cliff. Large pieces of rocks, which used to be the passage in front of the cave, were cut off from the whole mountain. This time, they did not fall intermittently, but directly collapsed. In the huge ring-shaped mountain, the sound of the mountain sliding down covered everything. The people below hid, and continued to watch the scene where the rocks could not fall. Some horses, which were tied to a safe place at the foot of the mountain, still stamped the ground anxiously after hearing the sound. Not only the broken place, but also other places were affected by the collapse. Therefore, for a time, the people who had been standing outside the cave ran into the cave. Especially on the side of the Dishan tribe, the situation was more serious. Just now, one of them was almost hit by a falling stone. Huma stood at the entrance of the cave and did not dare to stretch out his neck. From time to time, stones would fall. He was afraid that he would be hit in the head if he stretched out his neck. Seeing that Xueqi was standing on the rock and falling down, Huma was relieved. Even if Xueqi didn't die from the fall, he should at least be injured. In that case, he did not need to worry too much. Touching the wound on his waist, which was still bleeding, Huma's eyes were hazy. He did not expect that he would be forced into such a situation, and even get injured. Even if he was used to life and death, He could not calm down when it was his turn. He must kill them, all of them. Huma thought. However, when he just put down the bow and was about to find herbs to apply to the wound, he heard the person next to him exclaim, "What's wrong?" Huma did not look for herbs and asked the person next to him. There is. The person over there pointed outside. Huma looked outside. When he stretched out his head, a gray shadow flashed. With the sound of the air being broken, a broken knife cut his neck. When he thought he was temporarily safe, he was killed. Puff, blood splashed. Before Huma fell to the ground, he saw the person who should have fallen with the mountain, holding an eagle's claw and rising from below. Chapter 258. No one had expected that an eagle would suddenly fly down from the ring-shaped mountain, and such a big one at that. If it stood on the ground, it would be as tall as 2 people. That was quite rare. However, the people of the grassland tribes were familiar with that kind of eagle, and the travelers resting here had also seen it. After seeing the cha-cha, the people who had been shouting about the collapse of the mountain turned their attention to it again. Then, they all looked at a cave near the top of the mountain. In front of the cave, Gula and the others were also stunned. That is, a giant mountain eagle? The 2 young men who had been watching below were shocked. So the injury on Shan Dao's body was caused by that eagle, the other man said. Shan Dao was the name of the eagle they had brought out this time. It was also raised by Gula since childhood. At this moment, the injured Shan Dao was recovering in the cave. How could the Yanjiao tribe have a giant mountain eagle? Didn't they say that giant mountain eagles don't get close to humans? An older man from the Hui tribe said. They had always thought that only their tribe was close to and liked by the giant mountain eagles. Apart from their tribe, there were only a few tribes that could raise giant mountain eagles, and the Feather tribe was barely one of them. Even if they could raise a giant mountain eagle, it would be very difficult to raise one. It might not even be able to be tamed after it grew up, and there were many cases where the eagle would bite back at them. How could they easily accept humans with their arrogance? However, here the Yanjiao tribe, which had come out of nowhere, had one as well, and this one was even stronger than the one they had brought out. Judging from the size, it was similar. However, if the injury on Shan Dao's body was really caused by this eagle, then the lethality of this giant mountain eagle was too shocking. They had been watching the show with the others, but they didn't expect to see such a thing. Gula, what should we do? The people next to him all looked at Gula. This time, Gula was the leader of the team, so he had to make all the decisions. Gula thought for a while and was about to say something, but then they heard a loud and clear eagle cry from below. Tisk! After Cha-Cha lifted Xiao Xian up, Xiao Xian jumped down to where Mai and the others were standing. Cha-Cha flew to the top of the cave of the Dishan tribe. Its big claws dug into the stone wall, and then it dug out the stones on the mountain wall one by one. Some loose stones that had not fallen were dug out of the mountain and thrown down. The people of the Dishan tribe did not dare to stick their heads out of the cave, because once they stuck their heads out, they would be smashed. After scratching for a while, Cha-Cha decided to leave. This place was too small and there were too many restrictions. It didn't like the fact that there were people with bows and arrows in their hands. Just as he was about to soar higher, he heard the cry of an eagle from above. Who? In a cave near the top of the mountain, a wounded giant mountain eagle that was missing a lot of feathers rushed out. Cha-Cha was enraged when he saw the eagle rushing out. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he flew up and was about to attack with his claws. Shan Dao, come back! Gula was so anxious that he wanted to rush out himself. If he could fly, he would have already flown over. Looking at the condition of the other eagle, and then looking at his own eagle, everyone knew who would win. Xiao Xian also hurriedly blew the whistle to tell Cha-Cha not to be impulsive. When the travelers who were resting in the mountains saw the 2 eagles, they were more and more surprised. At the same time, they re-evaluated the strength of the Yanjiao tribe. This tribe was really much more complicated than they had imagined. When this was over, they had to inquire about it carefully. Xiao Xian had no time to care about the Dishan tribe. He signaled to Mai and climbed up. When he arrived at the entrance of the cave where Gula and the others were resting, Xiao Xian saw the wounded giant mountain eagle standing next to a man. There was no obvious hostility in his eyes, but more curiosity. Looking at the others, Xiao Xian knew what to do and made a gesture. Because of the sudden intervention of Gula and the others, Cha-Cha flew up to avoid the threat. Seeing Xiao Xian's gesture, he flew down again. Although the passage in front of the cave at this height was not wide, Cha-Cha could still stand on it. Standing behind Xiao Xian, Cha-Cha felt like he had a backer. He became bolder again and screamed at the other man and the eagle. He seemed to be laughing at the other side for asking for help. Gu La observed the eagle closely. It looked very similar to the eagles living in his tribe, but he always felt that there were some differences. Even if he called another eagle of the same size from the tribe, it would still be defeated. Gu La of the Hui tribe, Gu La said. Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows and smiled. Xiao Xian of the Yanjiao tribe. Seeing the smile in Xiao Xian's eyes, Gu La and the others were a little surprised. This kind of smile was not the kind that hid a knife, nor was it flattering. It was more like a friendly smile. However, the two young warriors thought that Xiao Xian must have heard that they were from the Hui tribe. After all, who didn't know that the Hui tribe was strong on the grassland? They didn't want to offend the strong, so they showed such an attitude. At this moment, the people of the Dishan tribe all hoped that the Hui tribe and the Yanjiao tribe would fight, because they had suffered heavy losses. Just now, Hu Ma was cut down, the leader of the team was seriously injured, and another senior totem warrior lost an arm. The situation was even worse. It seemed that they could not hold on for long. If the fight continued, they were afraid that the whole team would be wiped out. However, the atmosphere above was not as tense as other people thought. Xiao Xian had a good impression of the Hui tribe. The ancestors of the Yanjiao tribe had a good relationship with the Hui tribe, and it was because of the eagle that they had met. Do you know our tribe? Gu La asked. I've heard of it, Xiao Xian said. The young man behind Gu La curled his lips. Of course he had heard of it. The Hui tribe was strong on the grassland. Looking at Shan Dao, who was covered with wounds, he comforted him by touching his feathers. Later, Gu La will help you teach the Yanjiao tribe a lesson. As for why Gu La came forward instead of him, well, he couldn't defeat Xiao Xian. Just when the people of the Hui tribe thought that Xiao Xian would tell them the answer in their hearts, they heard Xiao Xian say, "The first foreign tribe I met was from the Hui tribe." What is it? Gu La just asked casually. He originally wanted to ask about the giant eagle behind Xiao Xian. It's a big stone card with your tribe's totem pattern. As Xiao Xian's voice fell, Gu La's eyes, which were originally focused on Cha-Cha, suddenly turned to Xiao Xian. He looked at Xiao Xian from head to toe, as if he had never seen Xiao Xian before. His face became serious, staring at Xiao Xian. He asked in a low voice, "Where did you get that stone card?" "A giant eagle gave it to me." Hearing Xiao Xian's words, Gu La didn't say anything, but the young man behind him couldn't help but say, "Nonsense. How could a giant eagle give you a stone card?" "Shut up." Gu La scolded the person behind him. "I'm telling the truth. That eagle's foot was drawn with your tribe's totem pattern." Xiao Xian didn't get angry in the face of the questioning, and continued, "That eagle was very big. A layer of skin fell off its foot, and the drawing wasn't clear." Hearing Xiao Xian's description, Gu La and the others thought of something. Their bodies trembled, and their breathing became irregular. In the tribe, there was only one eagle that fit Xiao Xian's description and left at that time, and that eagle's status in the tribe was no lower than the chief's. Why would the people of the Yanjiao tribe meet that eagle? Why would that eagle give away the stone card so easily? It should have returned safely, right? I hope to see it again in the future. Xiao Xian said. He really wanted to see that giant eagle again. Yes, it went back, and it's doing very well now. The shock in Gu La's heart had subsided, and his face was no longer serious. Instead, he showed a big smile, opened his arms, walked toward Xiao Xian, and gave Xiao Xian a hug. This was their way of expressing joy. "Nice to meet you," Gu La said. No matter what the specific situation was, the Hui tribe didn't need to be hostile to the person who could make that eagle give away the stone card willingly. After seeing Gu La's reaction, the travelers, who had been paying attention to the scene above, were shocked. What the fuck? What happened up there? Why didn't the people of the Hui tribe and the Yanjiao tribe fight? Instead, they acted like friends who hadn't seen each other for a long time. Different from the shocked travelers, the people of the Dishan tribe were pale at the moment. Chapter 259. Mai heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Xiao Xian chatting happily with the person above. It was the first time for them to come here, and they knew from Kuan too that the higher they went, the stronger the tribes in the caves would be. They had just defeated the Dishan tribe, so they were very tired and didn't have time to check their injuries. Their fighting capacity had decreased a lot. If they fought with another strong grassland tribe, the Yanjiao tribe would be at a disadvantage. After all, they had fewer people. Moreover, I felt that the man above, named Gula, was much stronger than the leader of the Dishan tribe. He was not sure if he could defeat him. Looking at the cave of the Dishan tribe, Mai's eyes became serious again. When hunting ferocious beasts in the forest, it was better to kill them all at once. Otherwise, they might encounter unexpected counterattacks and threats like the thorn black wind. Mai was about to ask the warriors who were not seriously injured to go with him to kill the remaining members of the traveling team of the Dishan tribe. Suddenly, he heard the leader of the traveling team of the Dishan tribe shout up, "Leader Gula, I have something to say to you." Mai's hand, which was about to strike, paused. He gestured to the others to stay put for the time being. Although they had heard about the Hui tribe from other tribes, they were not familiar with them. Mai didn't know how the people of the Hui tribe would react, so he stopped for the time being and waited for the next situation. The leader of the Dishan tribe had already noticed Mai's killing intent. When he found that the Hui tribe didn't fight with the Yanjiao tribe, he came up with another idea to get out of trouble. Gula frowned. He didn't want to intervene in the affairs between the Flaming Horns tribe and the Dishan tribe. The rule here was that whoever was stronger was right. If there were conflicts between the two tribes, they could fight. If they won, they were right. If they lost, they had to retreat or be killed. Therefore, even if the whole team of the Dishan tribe was killed, the people here would not say that the Yanjiao tribe had done anything wrong. However, why did the Dishan tribe ask him to join them? They must understand the basic rules, especially the people of the Dishan tribe, who had killed many teams before. Unless they had something that could convince the people of the Hui tribe to intervene. Gula lowered his eyes so that no one could see what he was thinking. When he raised his head again, he smiled at Xiao Xian and said, "Wait a moment." This meant that he was telling Xiao Xian that he would wait for the people below to come up. Xiao Xian did not argue. He raised his hand to stop Cha Cha, who wanted to fight with Shan Dao. The leader of the traveling team of Dishan climbed up with blood all over his body. He quickly glanced at Xiao Xian with deep fear and vigilance. Then he walked over and whispered something to Gula. The two of them went into the cave to have a secret talk. Seeing the change in Gula's expression, Xiao Xian sighed in his heart. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to wipe out this team this time. Walking to the edge, Xiao Xian looked down and signaled Mai to treat their wounds first. About 5 minutes later, Gula and the leader of the traveling team of Dishan came out. Gula looked normal, but the latter looked worse, as if his flesh had been cut off. They must have promised something that could move Gula. When the leader of the Dishan tribe went down, Gula asked Xiao Xian, "Who's in charge here?" Xiao Xian shouted down, "Mai, there's something." Mai was prepared. After coming up, he said to Gula, "Mai of the Yanjiao tribe. Gula of the Hui tribe." Gula did not put on airs. Partly because of the mystery of the Yanjiao tribe, and partly because of the giant eagle that Xiao Xian had mentioned. "Let the people of the Dishan tribe go," Gula said and pointed to the side. 3 people of the Hui tribe went down with him and brought up a few big bags. This is their compensation. When the bags were opened, there were a lot of jade, shells and other crystals similar to the water moonstones of the drumming tribe, which could be used for trading. If they were exchanged for water moonstones, it would be more than twice as much as what the drumming tribe had given them. Mai thought for a while and said, "Okay." Gula only said, "Let them go." As for what would happen after they left, he didn't care. Therefore, the hidden meaning in his words was that the next time they met, they could do whatever they wanted, and he would not interfere. Mai also understood. In the 2 years before returning to the old haunt, they, the former leaders of the hunting teams, were called by the shaman for training, so they naturally thought differently from others. Below, the people of the Dishan tribe left with those who were not seriously injured. As for those who were seriously injured, most of them were abandoned. Lang Jie and the others wanted to say something, but were stopped by Wei. "Let's talk about it later." Since the Hui tribe intervened, this battle could not go on. In addition to the things that the Dishan tribe took out, there was also a wooden box, which was given by Gula. There were many rare herbs in it. Of course, for the Yanjiao tribe, they had seen many good herbs, but now they were far from enough, and these herbs could be used in an emergency. Mai said a few more words to Gula and made sure that Gula meant that he would not interfere in the future. Then he left to apply medicine to the injured warriors. When Mai went down, He only took a wooden box with herbs in his hand. He did not take the other animal skin bags with jade, shells and other things. "Hey, don't you want these?" a man next to Gula shouted. As soon as his voice fell, a gust of wind swept across his face. Several bags on the ground were all grabbed by Cha-Cha and then flew down. The people of the Hui tribe looked at Cha-Cha and glanced at Shan Dao next to Gula. They thought, "This eagle can't be compared with other eagles. Look at him, he can help carry the bags. Even catching a rabbit is a blessing. Let's go in and talk?" Gula pointed to the cave where they rested and said to Xiao Xian, "Okay." Although Xiao Xian was not happy with the Hui tribe's intervention, he saw that Gula seemed to have something to say, so he did not refuse at the moment. After entering the cave, Gula asked people to guard the entrance and not let anyone get close. "Do you know what he said to me just now?" Gula asked. This he referred to the leader of the Dishan tribe. No. Xiao Xian did not expect that Gula would say this to him. Gula lowered his voice and said, "The fire crystal mine." Xiao Xian's eyelids twitched. No wonder the people of the Hui tribe were willing to help the Dishan tribe. It turned out that it was related to the fire crystal. This was indeed a great attraction. In the depths of the grassland, the mine is not big. The Dishan tribe has found it, but they haven't been able to eat it yet. Someone stronger than them is fighting for it. Speaking of this, Gula sneered. "I know what they are thinking. They want us to compete with the other side, so that the Dishan tribe can take advantage of us." Gula paused and asked Xiao Xian, "Do you want to go and have a look?" Xiao Xian shook his head. "Since it's in the grassland, we won't go there. It's too far." Gula actually wanted to sound out the situation of the Yanjiao tribe according to Xiao Xian's reaction, but he did not expect to get such an answer. "Where is your tribe located? If we go out again in the future, maybe we will visit the Yanjiao tribe," Gula said. "Oh, not too far." Xiao Xian pointed to a direction. "Go straight in that direction, in the ferocious beast mountain forest." Gula, the other people of the Hui tribe who had been listening to them, even Shan Dao, who stretched his neck to look out, made a strange cry. Gula couldn't keep a straight face. "I remember that there seems to be only the Wanshi tribe there." "Yes." Xiao Xian nodded. "It's next to the Wanshi tribe. But they are outside the forest, and we are inside the forest." He asked some more questions about the Yanjiao tribe, but Xiao Xian did not answer more. Gula also knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him if he continued to ask, so he talked about the matters of the Hui tribe. At the same time, he also talked about his experience of raising Shan Dao. "It's not easy." Gula sighed. Xiao Xian nodded in agreement while listening. "It's really not easy to raise them." "Yes." Speaking of this, Gula became excited again. At that time, Shan Dao was the smallest egg in the nest. He was only this big. Gula said, waving his hands to show the size. Xiao Xian looked at the size of the egg that Gula was talking about. When it stood up, it was higher than his knee, and this was the smallest egg in the nest. Because of this, Xiao Xian's expression became more and more strange. Gula was talking excitedly. When Shan Dao hatched, he was the weakest among his brothers and sisters. After all, he was the smallest egg. People used to say that in the nest of giant mountain eagles, the smallest egg was difficult to hatch. Even if it hatched, it would be difficult to survive, let alone grow up. When I brought Shan Dao here, I didn't have much hope. But who would have thought that Shan Dao not only survived, but also became the strongest among his brothers and sisters, even in the whole tribe. He is the strongest among the mountain eagles of the same size. Gu La's face was filled with pride as he spoke. In the Hui tribe, this was indeed worth showing off. But he didn't expect that Shan Dao would encounter Cha-Cha the first time he went out with others. Not only did he lose, but he also lost miserably. The competition between giant mountain eagles had always been like this. In the Hui tribe, there were many fights between mountain eagles, but some were worse than this. Gula didn't think that they were bullying each other. Giant mountain eagles grew up through repeated challenges. That way, they would have a greater chance to overcome more difficult obstacles in the future. This was why Gula wasn't too angry when he saw Shan Dao lose miserably. Thinking of this, Gula curiously asked Xiao Xian. "I think Cha-Cha also grew very well. He is very strong, almost the strongest among the mountain eagles of this size I have ever seen. When Cha-Cha hatched, its egg must have been very big, right?" Xiao Xian. "Huh. What are you laughing at? How big is it? Don't worry, it's not an exaggeration. I have seen bigger mountain eagle eggs. So boy, tell me, how big was Cha-Cha before? Xiao Xian stretched out his index finger and thumb and said, about this big. Gula. You think I have never seen a giant mountain eagle's egg? Xiao Xian was also helpless. He really didn't know that eagle eggs were divided into different sizes, and the difference was so big. When Cha-Cha hatched from that egg, he could hold it with one hand and almost cooked it. Chapter 260. Xiao Xian wouldn't tell anyone about how he almost cooked Cha-Cha. If he did, the people of the Hui tribe would be more agitated than him. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Several young people of the Hui tribe couldn't hold back their anger. They were just pretending to cut wood elsewhere, but now they ran over as if they had been stabbed in the ass. They looked at Xiao Xian and said, "You must be lying." Xiao Xian looked calm. "I'm not lying." Gula carefully observed Xiao Xian's expression. Seeing that Xiao Xian really wasn't joking, he asked, "Your eagle, what did it eat when it was growing up?" "What did it eat?" "It has a wide range of food, but it eats most ferocious beasts," Xiao Xian said. The people of the Hui tribe fell silent again. If they hadn't seen Cha-Cha and Shan Dao beaten up like this, they would have jumped up and pointed at Xiao Xian's nose when they heard Xiao Xian's answer, "You're bullshitting." But it was the truth. No, there must be other reasons. Gula shook his head and denied this. There are many ferocious beasts on the grassland, but I've never seen anything like what you're talking about. To be honest, Xiao Xian, the eagle eggs you're talking about can't be counted as real giant mountain eagles. They won't live long because they don't have the strength to go to Eagle Mountain. Have you heard of Eagle Mountain? Only those that have been to Eagle Mountain are real giant mountain eagles. Of course, strictly speaking, Shan Dao isn't a real giant mountain eagle. But when he feels he's strong enough, he'll naturally go there, just like his parents. And the small eagle eggs you're talking about, their parents haven't been to Eagle Mountain, so they're different from Shan Dao's parents. So do you mean that Cha-Cha's parents are not real giant mountain eagles? They are not big, so the eggs they give birth to are also small? That's right. Gula believed that no one knew more about the giant mountain eagle than the people of the Hui tribe. Oh, maybe it has been to Eagle Mountain, Xiao Xian said. The atmosphere in the cave stagnated. Everyone stared at Xiao Xian as if they had seen a ghost. In the past, it disappeared for a while, and when it came back, it became bigger, Xiao Xian continued. The cave remained silent. Their first reaction was disbelief, but after thinking about it, it seemed that this was the only explanation. Outside the cave, Cha-Cha, who had already delivered the items to Mai and the others, flew one round in the air. When he didn't see Xiao Xian, he walked to the entrance of the cave and stretched his neck to look inside. Gula only told the guards not to let anyone near the cave, but he did not tell them not to let the eagles near. Therefore, when Cha-Cha approached, not only did the people at the entrance not block him, they even made way for him. It was a pity that Cha-Cha did not go in. Cha-Cha had a lot of injuries when he fought with Shan Dao, but now, he had almost recovered. He was still alive and full of energy. Looking at Shan Dao, he was completely strong. Gula sighed, "I believe you." Cha-Cha had been to Eagle Mountain. That was why he was much stronger than other eagles of the same size, and his recovery ability was also much higher. Cha-Cha and Shan Dao had different starting points. In comparison, Cha-Cha's starting point was much lower, but because he had been to Eagle Mountain, survived, and experienced a transformation, he directly reversed his disadvantage and now was better than Shan Dao and the others. Because Shan Dao and the others had never been to Eagle Mountain. It was simply amazing. If they had some doubts when Xiao Xian mentioned the giant eagle before, now, there was no doubt left in the Hui tribe. "Where is Eagle Mountain?" someone asked Xiao Xian. "How would I know?" Xiao Xian answered. He knew but he would not say. However, the people of the Hui tribe did not doubt Xiao Xian's words. The giant mountain eagles would only go there by themselves. The Hui tribe had lived with the giant mountain eagles for so long, but no one had been there except some ancestors a long time ago, and the records left were not detailed. When Xiao Xian walked out of the cave, Gula was very enthusiastic. "If you go on a long journey in the future, you can go to the Hui tribe to have a look. We have many giant mountain eagles." After a pause, Gula added, "As for the Dishan tribe, you don't have to worry." "We don't have to worry." Xiao Xian laughed. We can kill them once, and we can kill them again. It was a bit arrogant, but people who had seen the Dishan traveling team would not doubt Xiao Xian's words. Gu La still wanted to say something, but thought it was unnecessary, so he stopped. Xiao Xian left the cave and went down. Mai and the others had occupied the cave where the Dishan tribe had rested before. "How are your injuries?" Xiao Xian asked. Before going up, he had roughly checked the situation and found that the warriors were not in danger of dying. "It's okay. Some of them probably can't walk for the time being. Let them stay in the carriage," Mai said. They did not intend to stay here for a long time. Kuan Tu and the others were still waiting at the foot of the mountain, but because the totem warriors of the Yanjiao tribe were there, the other people who were resting did not do anything to them. The Dishan tribe was an example. After packing up, Mai led the people down the mountain. "Where are the others?" Mai asked. "It's a little far from here. I'll lead the way," Xueqi said quickly. He did not know whether he was nervous or excited, but he felt comfortable. When they walked out of the mountain, Kuan Tu looked back and sighed again. "I didn't expect that it would collapse. There were many people fighting before, so there were traces on the passage. The mountain was not strong, and today it experienced such a fierce attack. It's reasonable that it collapsed," Xiao Xian explained. Mai looked at the people with Xueqi and asked, "Do you have any opinions about my decision to give up chasing the Dishan tribe?" No, Xueqi and the others said quickly. They really did not have any opinions. So many people of the Dishan tribe had been killed. Among the 3 senior totem warriors, 1 was dead, and 1 was disabled. Only the leader of the traveling team was left. For Xueqi and the others, this was a good revenge. Besides, as wanderers, they knew the situation better than others. At that time, Mai's decision was indeed the best. "If we can't solve it, when you awaken in the future, you can continue to take revenge," Lang Jie said with a smile. Awakening. Hearing this, Kuan Tu, Xueqi, and the others all breathed heavily. At this time, Xiao Xian suddenly said, "You may not be able to take revenge." "Why?" This time, even Mai looked at Xiao Xian in confusion. "You mean the people of the Hui tribe will help them?" Lang Jie asked. "No, it's the opposite," Xiao Xian said. "They dared to plot against the Hui tribe. The Hui tribe will not only take the benefits they promised, but also the Dishan tribe. So, the next time we hear news about the Dishan tribe, it will probably be about them being severely injured." That traveling team was just one of the forces of the Dishan tribe. Even if they were all killed, it was not a serious injury. The extent of the injury was much more serious than that. It was not convenient for Xiao Xian to talk about the fire crystals that Gula had mentioned here. He would tell Mai and the shaman when he went back. Xueqi took Xiao Xian and the others to the mountain where the wanderers rested. In addition to Xueqi and Kuan Tu's people, there were 2 other parties. After Mai picked them up, he took them with him. Their purpose this time was to pick up the wanderers on the grassland. They went back as soon as they picked them up. They also met many wanderers on the way, so they took them with them. Some wanderers they met on their way here were put in one place, and they would pick them up when they went back. So, the 50 totem warriors who came out to pick them up, when they returned to the tribe, there were nearly 600 wanderers around them. Since there were so many wanderers, they had to worry about food. Fortunately, the compensation they got from the Dishan tribe did not use the water moonstones given by the chief. Instead, they exchanged a lot of food, including meat and crops, with some tribes and people in the bazaar they passed by on the way back. Xiao Xian also got some seeds and took them back with him. With the wanderers, the team's speed was naturally much slower. Many people were curious about such a traveling team consisting of hundreds of people and livestock. However, those troublemakers were all dealt with. It was just that the soldiers were a little tired, and Cha-Cha and Caesar had also helped out. As for the other teams that were sent out, their situation was worse than Mai's team. At least Mai's team had carriages and enough money. And the name of Yanjiao gradually spread with the actions of these teams. There was one more tribe in the central area, called Yanjiao. The tribe called Yanjiao was very fierce. Not only were they fierce, but according to the travelers on the grassland, they also raised 2 ferocious beasts, a wolf and an eagle. No one knew if there were other tribes. What? You asked where their tribe was? Go straight there, next to the Wanshi tribe. Yes, that's right. It was in the ferocious Beast Mountain Forest. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.